Hey, that, but it we're not lagging right now. I am lagging because during that tick down, some weird stuff was happening. It was 30 seconds, and it was 11 seconds, and it was 8, and then it was 8 for like 10 seconds, 10 actual seconds. So sorry, I got a little confused there. Hopefully we're live, and I didn't just break the internet in some weird manner. But yeah, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name's Peter Howard, PA Howdy on Twitter, a contributor on occasion, as a senior writer to Dynasty League Football. Don't know why I'm doing a proper introduction for a change, but I am. We like to talk about Dynasty. We were doing it on a week-to-week basis during the season. We just decided to keep it rolling into the off-season. We're into rookie season, which is a huge part of Dynasty anyway. So if you have questions, trade questions, building questions, rookie profile questions, I'm actually a little bit more up-to-date on rookies than I was this time last week, so I can maybe compete a little bit with some perspectives on the rookies for this year. Dynasty Outhouse, like I said last week, has been unavailable for the next for 2 weeks because of his other commitments. So unfortunately, no Dynasty Outhouse this week. I know that makes us all sad, probably me most of all. But Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies podcast is still playing extra third wheel, so now he's just actual second wheel, and he's here to answer any questions that you might have about film, because I know nothing about film. I've been asked about what I think of film all day, and like no one's accepting that I don't think anything about film. Like I don't know. I watch players play. I like watching sport, weirdly enough, but I have no takes on it. So that's Zach's here. Okay, ask him. Leave me alone. I'm just saying. All right. So let's get into it. Off-season week 3, I think we're on already, I guess, or whatever it is. I don't care. Let's just talk about some Dynasty Fantasy Football. That sound fun? Cool. Hey, Zach.
Hey, how's it going? The wheels are falling off. I don't know if it's second wheel, third wheel, but they're all coming off.
My wheels have been off for so long. I'm just used to living in the gutter, I guess, to be honest. I'm constantly driving down the gutter. Wait, yeah, sorry, whatever. Yeah, exactly this. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I figure we probably field some questions like start for like week 4, 2022. Was that what we're doing?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I forget that there's still games going on until they start, and my timeline just fills up with comments about what's actually going on. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing that's still happening. Normally I'm not this deep into rookies this year. I just kind of got lucky. Zeno was able to get me some data, and I wanted to get an earlier start on it, because despite you literally not having to know anything about them right now, as far as content goes, or people that like Dynasty, like the season just ended, but not really willing to give it up just yet. And so people actually have questions. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. As someone trying to create some level of content, I should probably have an opinion on something. So I've been digging in a little bit, and getting grilled on Twitter about why I don't like all the right players. So that's fun. But yeah, we have comments already. What's up, Nicholas? How you doing? Nicholas has been in this chat, as far as I can tell, for about 2 hours, because this comment was sitting in here when I turned up to set up the stream. So, hey, Nick, how you doing? Not much. How about yourself? FF Lefty, you're live and good, Peter. I appreciate that, because I was a little worried there for a second, to be honest with you. I thought I'd broken something. I'm rebuilding. I traded Diggs for Deontay Johnson. Good trade for me. No. I like both players. I have them both in the top 12. I'd consider them both top 12 wide receivers. For Dynasty, I think Diggs has more trading value, probably. People love to clown on high volume guys.
Yeah.
And Deontay's not young, and Diggs has had an amazing, he's an amazing player, and people know it. So, it's fine. It's fine.
You bought back 2 years. Is what you did. Like Deontay Johnson's 26, Diggs is 28. So it's not like that's not a big thing. I do think the cool thing about Deontay Johnson, and I'm not, I think Diggs is fantastic, and I don't want to poo-poo on this, but I don't think, Nick, I don't mind this trade for you. I think the interesting thing about Deontay Johnson is people are down on him for playing with one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. A player who we've watched for the last 2 years not be able to throw the ball more than 8 yards down the field. And which
also fits in well with what he does.
But no, it doesn't, though. It doesn't fit in with what Deontay Johnson does. That's the big thing that blows my mind. Go look at Deontay Johnson's college profile, and he was like a 16, 17 yards per catch guy. He was a field stretcher. I was so excited to watch him play on the outside with Juju on the inside. And then all of a sudden they were like, well, we're going to move you to the inside because Roethlisberger can't throw.
Well, they moved Juju on the inside as well. That's the thing. Sometimes you just have to accept that's what they do in the NFL.
Well, but Juju wasn't inside. Like Juju was a player that was better
played on the
suited, but he was better suited to play on the inside. He was that 2 profile. Deontay Johnson is a field stretcher. That it was a lot like watching Golden Tate to me. So Golden Tate coming in was like a 18, 19, 20, like 3 separate seasons of yards per catch. Like he was the downfield guy. He was the huge ADOT guy, the air yards guy. And then he came in and he did that for a year in Seattle. And then they shipped him to Detroit. And Detroit was like, no, you're a slot player. And then he was Jarvis Landry. And that's exactly what happened with Deontay Johnson, where he was really that outside field stretching. And then Pittsburgh was like, nah, you're a slot guy.
Yeah, I just kind of accept usage. Like Golden Tate was an outside player, and not to make it, because it isn't about what players can or can't do, it's what they do. So it's a running back mythology too. It's like, I think from here on out, when the NFL's looking to play Deontay Johnson, they're going to say, oh, that guy plays on the inside. Rightly or wrongly. But not really here there. The thing I don't like your trade, Nicholas. It's fine. Like Zach said, technically he's younger, but he's an older prospect, an older breakout, and he's got a ding in dynasty value for that anyway. For some reason, we don't let go of it.
Peter's hanging on to the fact that he missed on Deontay Johnson with his metric. Wow. Don't let him fool you. That's what this is.
I'm one of the few with him in the top 12. I'll just say it. But no, the thing for me is if you're rebuilding or concentrating on value, and Deontay's got lower value right now, you've got it for 2 extra years maybe, but I don't think Diggs disappears in the next 2 years. So, and I think more people are interested in trading in Diggs in most years. So I don't think the values become easier to trade. I don't think you've got the side that's going to have more value maybe at some point. And Deontay only needs to get hurt, and you've lost both of those extra years. It's fine. I think it's a sideways trade, and Diggs he's just got a hotness sometimes about him. Like, it only takes one person to remember exactly how good Diggs is, and he's much easier to trade at any one point. And Deontay still has a quarterback problem. So maybe it's fine. It's just, if I'm looking for value, and maybe it's because I don't make moves to make moves, and I'm not that way minded, but like I would like, just give me the picks or give me Juju, much less value and a pick, and suddenly I feel like I'm rebuilding. I've got things that are more about value and capital, and Deontay is just a younger Diggs, but Diggs is probably better, and Diggs has probably got easier to trade value.
Now that, like, your trade just a trade, like to me, trading 1-for-1 wide receivers, like that's just a bet on you. You hope you hit, and that's a coin toss. I see Nick said that Deontay's 25. Deontay turns 26 in July, so he's
the thing.
100.
So like this time next year,
the
difference between the two for me is those 2 years, and this time next year it's gone. Right. Doesn't matter that extra year, because it's 2 years, but it's a 1 year value difference. Right. It's kind of hard, and so I don't know. Deontay gets exponentially more valued or easier to trade than Diggs over the next year. So it seems sideways to me. It's perfectly fine. Either way, either side, you got a great player. You're good. You didn't lose nothing. It's just, I would be like, yeah, that's fine. But like, I'm rebuilding. If I'm in that mindset, I'm looking to get more value than I am production. And here's just, it's an edge. Okay, I'll give it the Deontay side. There's an edge there, but it just seems like, can't I do better at rebuilding with Stephon Diggs? Can I not get 3 picks? Can I not get 2 and Juju? Can I not get something that's clearly wealth of value for an amazing player?
Did you see Adam Harstad?
Maybe not. maybe
we have to have our obligatory Adam Harstead mention. But did you see Adam Harstead's tweet today where he was digging into the teams in his league, and he was like, it feels like the teams with the higher variance per season win more than the teams that stay consistent. And it's essentially the John Bosch thing where you either want to be first or you want to be last. But he dug into that and found out that in his leagues over the course of the time that he'd been in it, that there is a difference, that you do want to have that big variance from season to season, but both because if you're bad, you get better picks, but also when you're good, you have those, that season of seasons. And so you have a higher output. So it's trading to go get Deontay Johnson. If you're rebuilding and you're trying to get bad so you can get back to be good, adding Deontay Johnson is going to keep you where you were in terms of points, because he and Diggs are scoring very similarly, where if you get, the picks, they're not scoring points for you. And then when you're ready to come back and be good, you can use those picks and then have that production. So it's, again, there's a lot to game theory and that sort of thing when you're roster constructing. To me, it's rebuilding is such a hard thing because you can get caught in the middle so easy.
And what I'd say, we make crystal clear takes on, in your league, that might be the best trade you got for Diggs. That might be the best edge. And like I say, I don't think you've got a bad player, and he's slightly younger, so I get it. Just kind of, it made me feel meh, so I said it. Lakers, how you doing? Doing pretty well. How about you? J Mike Check is in the chat. Look at that.
I've heard of him.
Do you have time to listen to me grind? Actually, yes. Yes, I do. Well, I appreciate that, man. Glad you had some critical trade questions. You guys are a lot of help. Hey, we try to not be completely useless. Yeah. Dante is all. Yeah, this is not a question about the player at this point. No matter what Zach said, I've been well on the Deontay train for a while, and also admitted, that's the thing. This offseason, I found my way fudging, admitting that Deontay had a great season. He should continue to be great. I just really wanted Juju. It was I was really careful not to say Deontay wasn't good. I just wanted Juju, and it's kind of a bad place to get slipped into, but I just think he's a lot better. You can only see so many people that literally get paid to do this professionally describe Juju Smith-Schuster as average. He's fine. Before you lose your shit, you're lying, or you don't know what you're talking about if you think what he's done in the NFL so far is average, whatever. And that kind of thing just put me on the screw it. I want Juju. Give me Juju. And it took me a little too far. I didn't praise Deontay as well as I should have. And after this season, it's impossible not to notice. Salvatore traded Nick Chubb in the 112, the 103, and the 107 in my 1QB 12-team league. Thoughts on the trade and on Chubb's dynasty value? Chubb's dynasty value has always failed to fall for me. I keep hoping everyone's scared of his age and the fact he's got Kareem Hunt, and no one's ever fallen for it. That's my first thought. There seems to be a top 7 in this class. There's a top 3 for me so far.
No, in a one quarterback, there's a top 2.
I know. I think there's going to be a second running back who's interesting. Especially,
you think Spiller is going to be the guy?
I don't know. I have no idea. But right now, I think Spiller is my running back 2.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be 2 running backs that get probably draft capital and a landing spot, and we'll rank them in the top 3. But top 7, get out of here. There was a top 7 last year, and it was an exceptionally good class, and we knew that. Top 7. No, I always feel remarkably I undervalue rookies when I'm talking to people about this stuff. But then I go look, and there's 11 players a year from every class that have 2+ fantasy relevant seasons. That's more than I generally think. But you all have to go too far. There aren't 7 great prospects. There are going to be around 11 great fantasy assets eventually. Some of them James Robinsons. Some of them are Adam Thielen. Some of them we won't even draft in the rookie class. And, they're going to take 4 years for us to figure them out. So but are there 7 great profiles in this class? No. There's 3, maybe 2, definitely, especially if you take quarterback out. Just saying, don't underrate the value of rookies, but also The 7's too much. But anyway, onto the trade. Chubb for the 2. Yeah, I think you got 2 high first round picks for Chubb. If you're,
I don't think adding the 112 to Chubb to get picks.
That's the part that's getting me.
So again, if you have the 103 and the 107, you're hoping one of them becomes Chubb. Like that's something you're actively doing. You've got a top 12 running back. You're hoping one of those becomes a top 12 running back. And then at 107, what do you like? You're hoping one of these wide receivers hits, and you're hoping the guy at 112 doesn't. I'm not confident enough in looking at this class. Looking at this class, to me,
I can't promise I would do better at 7 than I would at 12.
Yeah, there are 2 trees, and then it's like looking out over a prairie. It's a whole bunch of really flat, short scrub brushes. And there's Breece Hall and Treylon Burks that I'm really confident about. There are another probably 3 or 4 receivers that I like. There may be 3 or 4 running backs that are okay, like that I'm interested in. But to say it's 7 deep, like it's not. Like there are 2 players that I would have had graded out that would have been players that I wanted last year. In last year's draft.
I would say
last year's draft was 7 deep.
Jamison Williams is kind of a wild card. Right now, I'm not sure what to think of him. He could easily make it a 3 or 4 tier class. Also, I haven't looked at tight end. Also, I haven't even finished running back. So this could easily be 7 by the time of the draft. I don't want Salvatore to get too upset here. Like, you're fine. And one thing I would say is now's not a terrible time to trade Chubb away if you can get value for him, because he's a running back and there's a lot to go through and injuries and all the risks that they entail. So, yeah, and you got 2 early round picks. What I would say is if your team's like really solid, then this trade it's sideways. If you're looking for value, then those 2 picks can probably get you more down the line. And I would be looking to move into 2023 rather than gamble that I got the right 2 picks. And in that case, trading Chubb will have worked for you because you're trading an older, amazing running back. But if you can keep pushing that value forward, you're actually building up your dynasty team because you're struggling a little bit. But if you've got Chubb, I'm assuming you did pretty well, but you may be slightly older. So there are ways this can work for you. It's not a terror like you ruined your team kind of a trade. But for me, just in a vacuum, it's a 112 heavy. Chubb for those 2 picks, I'd be like, yeah, that's someone valuing one of the best running backs in the league. I get that. They're really pushing. And you're getting out at a pretty decent time of the year and also in his career. So it would make sense. With the 112, it just means you have to trade some of that value into the future, or you really have to hit your picks, or it's going to be desperate. And hitting rookie picks is fun, but I don't want to gamble too much on it. You know what I mean? I think is that a summary? Like you were saying, you've either got to hit Chubb or and you've kind of lost a lot.
Right.
Which you can lose a trade. It's fine. You're not dead.
I think if you plug this into a trade calculator of your choice, I think you probably came out on the win.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think it's a lot harder to pick the right players in rookie drafts, and especially this particular one where there really is not a lot of separation, and it's a lot of like, yeah, these guys are okay. Somebody is going to be good, but there aren't a lot of players that I'm really excited about.
Right. And I would say, like you noted at the end here, you think there are 7, so that means you probably did a good trade. We think there's probably less than 7, so we don't. And that's a lot of it's coming down to that. And don't be fearful that we think there's less, and you go with what you think. And again, we don't know your league. This is in a vacuum, so this could be a really good move. How good are you at hitting picks? Is Breece Hall likely to slip to the 7? No, but after the draft, you could get a really good player at 7. So I'm not trying to make you feel terrible about it or anything, just offer you thoughts on it. And where I would easily give up value, and I think trade calculators probably said you didn't. I think you did. But the move for me would be, can I move forward with it? And those picks are easy to trade to more players for at least the next 2 months. So there's definitely moves you can make. Right. So it's not terrible. It's just added thoughts. And Nicholas J, welcome back. Haven't seen you for a few seconds. Deontay in the league only 3 years. Yeah, that's the thing, though. He came in older. Yeah, it's fine. I couldn't get Elijah Moore. And again, yeah, like you said, I think we covered this. It's all about your league. I do like to note Dynasty players, once they have a significant, there's an aura around some players. It's like Patrick Mahomes could continually be below Josh Allen for the next 2 years, and he'll still carry the same value. He's got a Patrick Mahomes aura. Deontay, on the other hand, has got this older wide receiver prospect with lower draft capital aura, and he'll always carry it, even if it's not as strong as it was, because it shouldn't be there at all. And I like to put pins in those things, because right now Deontay seems like a great trade target for me, because I expect to get him for less than Stephon Diggs. But it's all dependent on your league. I'm fine rostering either. I think you're perfectly fine. I only have Nick Chubb as my running back one. I need to start players in January. It's fine. You don't have to fill a roster. And Nick Chubb's getting trades right now, so you're good. Got two firsts for Jacobs. That sounds like a great trade to me.
Yep.
So yeah, you're definitely building, and like I say, it's not a killer or anything.
Oh no, yeah.
Hold
on. You missed. What could he get for Chubb?
Well, apparently you can get 2 firsts if you add a first, and then you get 2 higher firsts. I would aim for 2 firsts straight up, especially since you're building, and I think that's a significant discount for an older player. I'll try and get 2023 picks, honestly. Yeah. Get one of them in 2023.
I think that's the rub, too. If you already got 2 firsts for Jacobs, and you didn't say where they were, but assuming they're in this class, it would be nice to, if you're trading Chubb, try to get into the 2023 class to diversify, but also I think that's a much stronger class.
Yeah, especially when you're building, when I'm trying to build, my eye is on what's in the bank. That's what I think of as value, what I can spend when I need to. Like, I'm actually having a good year in 2022. What can I spend? And if it's all in 2022, then they're already spent by the time you get to the season. So you're just trying to push not to 25 or anything, but we're just always trying to diversify, like Zach said. I do think 23 is probably a better class. That's where the vibe is right now.
Yep.
But it's not even about that. It's just you don't want to put too many eggs in one basket when you're building, Tyler Reeves, what are your thoughts on Mac Jones? Pair him up with something and chase something bigger, or hold? I'm assuming Superflex. I think Mac Jones is underrated right now. I'm always interested in trading up to one of my elite guys. So if I can add a first to Mac Jones and get, one of the top 5 for me, like Dak Prescott, I still think he's there for fantasy. Probably the lowest on the list. So Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. If you can do that, yeah, I'm always looking to go to the elite tier. But if I can't, I'm pretty comfortable holding Mac Jones.
I would be interested to see how much you have to put with Mac Jones, because Mac Jones had kind of a meteoric rise in Dynasty. Yeah. Because he had a really good rookie year. He had the best rookie year out of all the rookies. I'd be interested to see what you would have to put with him to get to Jalen Hurts, who we just saw have a terrible game in the playoffs. So people are down on him. But I think Philadelphia is going to commit to him at least for the next year. And I would rather have Jalen Hurts as my QB2 who scores as a QB1 than I would Mac Jones, who is a QB2. Like, he's a solid QB2. But that would be something, because I think, to me, a QB2 doesn't necessarily have to be safe. And I know that's a little bit contrarian, but if you can get somebody like Hurts who has that big boom potential, you can win a week if you have him and whoever your QB1 is play well.
Yeah, I've got Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts both on players I'm interested in targeting, but in 2 different lists. Like, I think Mac Jones' value could easily rise once we get a better sense, because it did quell off quite off. Lessen off as the wins stopped coming and they didn't make it into the playoffs. But I think he himself proved to be real capable in that system. That system is pretty good. So I think there. With Jalen Hurts, I've got him on a list of if you can get him at his value, like you were just talking about, I think he's easily going to put up points next year at least. So if I'm in more of a building frame of mind, I'm more interested in Mac Jones. If I'm like, my team's pretty ready, Jalen Hurts is easily an upside candidate there. So I think that's an interesting trade. And I would not want to add much to Mac Jones to get Hurts, though, because I do think the value arcs probably go in different. I don't know why I put such a technical term on there. I think Mac Jones could easily rise and remain. Jalen Hurts is there could be a steep drop-off coming. I don't think that's fair. I think Jalen Hurts is definitely capable of playing for years in this league. I think that's what will happen. But by the end of next year, could you see the noise getting too loud and then fading? And that means there's a cliff potential with Hurts that I don't see. So it's much more about points. But I think that would be a really interesting target. But both are kind of undervalued right now for me. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential trades you could explore, but I would not be like, oh, I got to get him off my team. I think you're in pretty good stead with Mike Jones on your team. So explore, but don't trade. He's the QB2 in Superflex. Yeah, that's a really solid position to be in, you know? So, yeah. Or you could go for Team Old Guy if Hurts is too risky. You know, go get Stafford, go get who else have we got on that list? Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
Yeah, Cousins, like that. There's
and
a whole
you probably
bunch
get
of
a little value back then.
Yeah.
Let me try here. Super Mosley 5. That's what I'm going to call you. Contending team just won it all. Congrats, man. I have a bunch of aging assets. And how, buddy? If you won, yeah, that's how that happens. Would you be looking to sell first? Who would I be looking at? Henry, Eckler, CMC, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, or hold? It's all about the trade, right? Like, who do I get a decent trade on? I'm always interested in selling players, especially when it's Dynasty. You can sell off older players. I think Henry's probably holding his value best because he's King Henry, right? Eckler's probably losing value most unfairly because undrafted free agent. Christian McCaffrey, injury, same category. Adams, I think you're just holding Adams right now. But if you get a good trade for him, I wouldn't be scared of it. Diggs, same thing. So who would I be looking to sell the most, I guess? I don't know. I think I carrying them on to 2022. Like, I'm not panicked to sell any of them, but I guess Eckler and Henry.
I think for me, with this set and with the situation that you're in, Super Mosley, like, I am probably running it back next year because you also have the 4 firsts in 23. I would see where I am at about week 5 next year. And if you still feel like your team is a bull of the woods, let's go with it. You can still trade those players at the end of the season and reload, but you've already got 423 firsts.
Yeah, I was going to say that was part of it. Otherwise, you'd be like, just get some 23 capital for these because your team's going to take over next year. But since you've already got that,
run it back, especially if you just if you just won. You're playing with house money. You've got a good team. You might as well give it another shot. I don't think that there's going to be the big swing because usually what you see in Dynasty, or a lot of times what you see in Dynasty, is season to season there's a big swing where the teams that finish down at the bottom, if they kept their picks, are really good. I don't think you're going to see as big a swing this year because, again, I don't think there's a difference maker in this class. As much as I like Breece Hall, he's not in the same tier as, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. He's not in that difference making tier. He's the next tier down. He's like potential to be like running back 8 through 18 or whatever. Like, he's good, but he's like David Montgomery plus. He would have been in the same tier last year for me, or maybe just a touchdown from Najee Harris and Javonte Williams. So I think I like your chances of being able to run it back and then still have the 4 firsts for the year after. So
yeah, I think you're in good standing. I do hate giving the don't do anything advice, though. But where you've got picks and you've also got players, it's like, well, you don't
he's
need,
already done something. Yeah.
I would say, I mean, what would I explore? Okay, Jonathan Taylor, clearly, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Those are the three things that you don't have. That's the only things you don't have, as far as I can see. So, I mean, CMC is an injury risk. I think his value is way too low. That's why I haven't mentioned him as a trade candidate. So if the player with one of those guys on their roster still really values CMC, I mean, that's what you're getting young and keeping points with any of those three players. CMC for what? With Jonathan Taylor or Eckler, who, what do the Chargers need on offense outside of a running back, maybe? And they keep throwing depth picks behind Eckler, and Eckler's just great. Don't get me wrong. That's why I'm not eager to trade him. But there's greater risk for running backs in the offseason. The draft is coming. I don't do draft predictions at all, but what do the Chargers have to add? I'm imagining it's O-line, I'm imagining it's defense, much more so than offense. Our offense is solid as hell. So I don't think Eckler's at a risk, but if I'm trying to navel gaze for which of my players I would most like to trade into, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, he's probably at the top of the list for that reason. And if you condense one of those or both of those guys into Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson plus, then you're keeping points. You definitely can run it back next year still, probably. And you've gotten younger without having to chase picks, which you already have. Right. So maybe go check out who has those players in your league, and if one trade would interest you, where you're still competitive next year, but you're getting younger and keeping your points per game. But you really don't have to, man. You got three really strong running backs that should be really strong next year, two great wide receivers, and they're all a little undervalued, except for maybe. I do think Derrick Henry is one of those players. He's King Henry. He's gigantic, rightly so. But
look, yeah. Sometimes the best move at the poker table is just to check, see the next card, see what happens. Especially if you're, trying to bait somebody into.
The thing is, looking at the squad you've built, maybe you just follow your own advice. You're doing pretty well. You won. You've got Henry, Eckler, CMC, Adams, and Diggs. You're good. You're good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have a good idea. Would you move JT for Herbert in 10-team Superflex? Ooh. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. Man, I don't know.
I love Jonathan Taylor, and I think he's great. I think he's definitely the Dynasty running back one right now. He's a running back. And I think the hype's just got nowhere to go but up from here till the end of the season. I'm worried about that. Like, already seeing, he's got elite. He's right there. We don't need to hype it up anymore. We're going to get too over our skis. He's not LaDainian Tomlinson because no one can be at this point. He's as good as we can get. As good as you can hope to get, undoubtedly. I don't know what I'm saying here. Just I fear the Jonathan Taylor hype a little bit. And Justin Herbert's definitely going to be on your squad and of higher value for longer. So I'm interested in it. A running back for a quarterback in a super flex, and Herbert is one of those guys who could be those elite players. And as a 10-man, it's real tight.
It's roster construction. It's what do you have for quarterbacks versus what do you have for running backs? If you have, if you have another top 10 running back, or actually I shouldn't even say top 10 running back. If you have one of those top 3 or 4, like the difference maker running backs, or if you have another top 4 or 5 quarterback, it's roster construction at that point, because it's where you able to score more points with your secondary pieces. For me, it's it's really a push.
It's harder to get a JT than a Herbert, as hard as it is to get a Herbert. Right. And Herbert isn't necessarily in everyone's top 5. He's, as far as the NFL goes,
he should be.
Dynasty, there's a strong tier with Herbert in it, but there are others. With Jonathan Taylor, he's probably in a tier by himself for Dynasty right now, as far as running back goes. So in that way, I want to keep Jonathan Taylor. But what does my roster construction look like, as Zach pointed out? And in a 10 team, that's what's got me here. The 10 team, like JT is a difference maker here. And difference maker in a smaller team league like that instead of 12. I probably lean JT, and it's really awkward to say. Because the counterpoint there is, what does your team look like? Herbert's going to be there for 5 years, easy at this value. Jonathan Taylor's got 2 years, maybe at this value, but his points are still going to keep coming for at least 3 outside of injury. So, yeah, I probably lean JT. I want to win, and I think JT helps you win a little bit more in a 10 team. But, yeah, if you just love Herbert, you want to go get Herbert. I'm not against it, man, if you're a Chargers fan or whatnot. Lakers, rank these 3. St. Brown. Why am I? Amon-Ra, I guess. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Bateman.
Yeah, it's not Equanimous.
Well, I thought for a second maybe someone remembered. Bateman, Judy, St. Brown. St. Brown and Judy are closer together for me the most, but that's the order.
It's really close to being Bateman, St. Brown, Judy.
Yeah, they're close. They're closer than a lot would.
And I think that, like, value wise, I think that if you were going to go again, use these pieces as trade chips, it's probably Bateman and St. Brown, I think, are close right now with the hive mind of Dynasty in the last 5 weeks that we saw St. Brown have 6 touchdowns in 5 weeks. And so if I'm looking to acquire these players, it's probably Bateman, St. Brown, Judy, and I love Jerry Jeudy. I think he should be a fantastic player. He has been okay, and that's scary.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not a bad comparison. It's like St. Brown's just because no one else is there. He's got a bad quarterback. Come on.
I mean, he's good, but he's also
what I mean is Jeudy has that.
Yeah.
Judy's had a bad quarterback in a situation bursting for him to get like 30% market share, and St. Brown did it and Jeudy didn't.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Like, I mean, it's not like Sutton, like he came in and Sutton struggled when to co-op targets when Jeudy was there. So it's not like, he has a lot of competition in that way. No, of course, Jeudy was great in college. He definitely had a good profile, and I liked him. I accepted him in that tier. But it's been PFF grades and film grinders telling me about the nuance of his game. And I'm like, at what point do I flick back to, I'm just a dummy who likes volume, because I know that makes it easier for opponents to come, and also actually what I'm getting? At what point do I flip that back to maybe he's not that for fantasy? And I'm pretty close, which is why I say it's like Bateman, Jeudy, great or equal to St. Brown. Like, I think that's the way my ranks have it, like Bateman, Jeudy, St. Brown. But if you come at me with a St. Brown plus for Jeudy, I'm probably more interested than most people. Like, I like that kind of thing. But again, he's a great player, so we could literally own meetings here. Superflex PPR. In 2020, I traded away Josh Allen for Jonathan Taylor and Tom Brady. Good job. Going to 2022 as a competitive time, which side would you prefer? Brady and Taylor?
Yeah. Yep.
Superflex or not? Again, that's what we were just talking about. Jonathan Taylor is rarer and harder to replace. I get Josh Allen is that quarterback. Like, he is a difference-making quarterback. But, like, the difference between Josh Allen and QB7 versus Jonathan Taylor and running back 2, especially in Dynasty, is Jonathan Taylor still wins. And Brady's doing just fine still. I don't think he's...
I would say Brady scored within 30 points of Josh Allen this year. In 30 fantasy points. And I dare say that whoever your running back 2 is probably scoring less than that compared to Jonathan Taylor.
Waves of glory. That wasn't just a random statement. That's his name. What's up, boys? Why the hate for guys like Hopkins and Cooper? They're old for Dynasty players. I don't hate them, to be very clear. I like Team Old Guy. I just acquired both in a good... Yeah. welcome, join Team Old Guy. Like every year we post on Twitter about what's going on here. But yeah, I'm in on Hopkins bounce back, and Amari scores similarly to other wide receivers. Yeah, much higher value than him. They're a deemed more sexy. Yeah.
But the time to be on Team Old Guy is when you've got the rest of your team in place, because they are less expensive to acquire. You can add decent. Again, DeAndre Hopkins could end up being a top 5 wide receiver. Again, he's done that multiple times in his career. It's easy to see. Amari Cooper is probably a very solid wide receiver too. Those are the types of pieces that really when solid. I get everything, what?
Really solid wide receiver too.
Yeah. So, like a solid wide receiver too. And those are the types of pieces that I want to add when I've got the rest of my team in place. Because if you're not careful, those are the types of players who will buoy you right into like an 8th place finish, which is like.
But I mean, it's about the trade. When you're not mentioning value here, like I'll be Hopkins on a rebuilding team because I know that I can trade him for a first in season next year. It's about what I'm trading him for. But yeah, it's a worthy point. Is Higgins more valuable than what? Yes, T. Higgins is more valuable than the 104. And I'm a stupid guy. I like to keep simple rules in my head. And if a guy was worth a first and has out and definitely done better than most first round picks, he's got to be worth more than a first now. Just simple. If they hit and they're first round picks, they're now worth 2 firsts. Kind of logic,
Okay, can I qualify a little bit of the class, and especially when we're talking super flex, because normally we sit there and say, okay, super flex, you're going to push down the top 3 picks because you're going to have 3 quarterbacks. I just heard on a podcast today, Lance Zierlein say he would not be surprised if Sam Howell went outside of the first 4 rounds in the NFL draft. And Howell is one of the players that people talk about as one of those quarterbacks. If the NFL is not valuing him in the first round, then this class gets real thin real quick, even in Superflex.
Tyler Reeves, what are the top 3 for Superflex rookie drafts? Rookie drafts? Right now,
I haven't watched enough quarterbacks. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm tired of putting asterisks on everything. But I mean, this is early, right? Not to trade as if. But yeah, it's Burks, Hall, Spiller. That's it. At Superflex, I don't know quarterbacks. Okay, but there's going to be a quarterback in there probably.
Look, we can watch quarterbacks all day and do the evaluation, but that position matters more than any other when you're talking about draft capital. Like if I went in the other room, I have a list where I went through all of the quarterbacks who were productive for fantasy, who were drafted outside of the first 18 picks or something, and it was something like 96% were first round quarterbacks, and then the other 6% or the other 4% were.
Is Spencer Rattler declaring?
As far as I know, he's going to be one of the guys. There's Matt Corral. Okay. I mean, but it's going to it's a real thin quarterback class. They're going to be.
I literally just eyeballed 2 things. Rattler looks like the QB1. Just guessing. From the highest drafted conference, he's the most accurate with a 70% completion percentage. And that rate's at 9% above expected, using a very hacky version of Frisco Josh's completion percentage of average, using the conference average. So Spencer Rattler looks like he would also be in the top 3. There you go. That's my best guess.
Corral, Pickett, Rattler. Drop your voice.
Right. And Howell was over average as well, 2% above average. Someone called Malik Willis. Again, I literally will listen to anyone about quarterbacks but me. But Rattler stands out, so does Howell. I don't know why I'm pausing. Yeah, that's it. Who's a QB for the top 3 Superflex? Hey, look, we just did that. I think it's Rattler. Howell looks interesting. Is anyone else in the Big 12 here? That's big for quarterback, apparently. 9% drafted rate. No.
Come back in 6 weeks, and we'll quarterback.
No, I'm just gonna guess it.
Love it.
Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, and Carson Strong from Nevada. There you go. Those are my top 3 right now because I looked at them for 4 seconds right there. Kid Coop, first year in Dynasty. My worst trade was not getting rid of Mike Williams for Waddle. That would have been a really good trade. Early in the season, my best trade was getting rid of Henderson for Bateman. Yeah, that was a good trade.
Yeah, that's a win.
For 23 top 8 pick. Nice. Keep trading. Just keep on swimming. Salvatore, in almost every trade I do in the offseason, I do it for value. I made 120 trades last season. You're in good leagues, man. That means you got people willing to trade with you that much. I would also point that's like inherently good for Dynasty. Good job. Joe Herbert, I see Jamison Williams as a Z receiver in the NFL. That keeps me from pushing him higher on my board. Yeah, I'm starting to become less skittish of Jamison. I was just looking at him just in terms of Alabama history, comparing the past prospects. Here's the thing. I've got 1 year where he played more than 8 games. So I already know there needs to be an asterisk on it. But if I just look at all of his performance, yeah, he fits in with the good players that have come from Alabama. And that last year was pretty significant. 2.9 yards per team pass attempt. That's really good. Okay, that's really good. The draft going to clear up a lot for players like that for me. If they're willing to go in on that player while he's injured, pretty hopeful. Right now, the player that keeps occurring to me is Mike Williams. Mike Williams suffered a terrible injury. Mike Williams was more of a Z receiver. I remember someone using that term. That doesn't mean he's going to have Mike Williams' career, but it does provide hope for a guy who's just had an injury, had a limited college season, not quite as limited. But, I mean, there's comparisons to be made.
He is interesting for me, and I have him probably lower than a lot of people will this year. But for me, looking at Jamison Williams, he's got absolutely elite speed, but it is build-up speed. It's not instantaneous. So, like, there's some Tyreek Hill, for example. Like, you watch him run, and he's off the line like crazy.
Right.
Justin Jefferson was that way for me. I don't think Williams is that instant speed, but he's very, very fast. He also played outside and has a couple of moves off press, which is nice, especially for a player. Like, he's 6'2", but he's only 189 pounds. So, like, he's not the DK Metcalf, like, hand fighting, plowing guys over, but he's got a real good hesitation move. And then he uses a jab step, and then he combines it with a swim. So he will jab one way, bring his body across the defender's body to be able to kind of create space that way. He's very good yards after the catch on slants, which is something that I know, Joe, you're seeing him as more the field stretcher and down the field receiver, and he may be. I mean, that was the Henry Ruggs role, but it was also what people thought Jalen Waddle was going to come into the NFL and do. And I think Williams is a lot more like Waddle than he is like Ruggs. And he also is very good against on the sideline, very good at getting both feet down, kind of having that awareness. And the other thing that I really, really like about his profile for me is he is a natural against zones. And he does something that I have not seen very many players do. And Elijah Moore was really good at this. But what he'll do is he finds the exact moment where two defenders hand you off, because a zone, and I talked about this last week, but a zone is you're playing an area. And so the defenders have to communicate, okay, there's a guy running past me. I'm going to hand him off to you. Jamison Williams will find that point where a defender hands him off and then make a move back to the defender who thinks, oh, phew, I'm rid of Jamison Williams. And so then he'll be back in that area vacated by the first defender who thought he handed him to the second defender. And that's really, really nice. He's an absolutely terrible blocker, though. Terrible blocker, worst blocker since Devin Smith. And struggles sometimes with body catching, gives a defender a chance to break up passes like that. and I don't think he's necessarily laterally quick. So he struggles at the goal line in short spaces. So he's not going to be the Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel 7-yard slant, scoring in the red zone. But that's my take on him.
If you knew or know how skittish I am on low sample players or players that do well in one season, this is a stronger statement than it probably appears. But he's the only player, even with all these jitterinesses that he's causing me, he's the only player close to threatening that Treylon Burks tier in this class. I don't think he gets in it with all this around him, but he's the only one who really strikes a chord as getting in there. So yeah, I'm open to learning more about whatever the hell Zach just said. Whatever the hell that. Yeah, but Chase Claypool 205 for the 2023 second for Calvin Ridley. I would take the Claypool side.
Yeah,
I'm so still it's Claypool on 2 seconds for Ridley. Yeah,
I'm still treating Ridley like he's retired until I hear that he's not. Like I just
and then
that's how I'm.
If he decides and says, I'm coming back to football, I'll pay a first for him, and I'll also have Claypool in those 2 seconds, and I'll be happy. Yeah. I'll overpay if he decides football is right for him when he comes back. As it is, yeah, I think that'd be a solid trade for the Claypool side. Tyler Reeves, Elijah Moore, Amon-Ra. Elijah
Moore on 3. 1, 2, 3, more.
We'll blame Ryan for that. Salvatore, my top 7 in this class: Burks, Hall, Spiller. Garrett Wilson's interesting. It's really interesting. So's London. Kenneth Walker. No, not for me. I mean, he's good. He's definitely in this class. He stands out. I would have a hard time getting him, being excited about him right now. Draft coming, and Jamison Williams, like we just said, I think if you're confident in what you've seen so far, there's good reasons to have him in the top 7. Of the ones that, again, you know where my cutoff here. After Spiller, the strong, they're okays. They're good. They're very good. London, I'm a little worried about for a few different reasons. But he's in. I keep dithering which tier to put London in. I like him a lot, but there are some concerns. What did I write down? He's the type of player I would have been much higher on immediately not so long ago, and now I've learned to be a little less sure of myself, I guess, as time goes by. I've got a joke in here about him being a detective, and then, he outproduced both Amon-Ra and Pittman from the same team within the same era. I find that very impressive. He only played 2 years that I can look at, and his yards per team pass attempt, despite being better than both, is still good, not great. He never had a great season, and that's mostly where I'm at with him. But I didn't mean to profile him there. Just his name triggered me. I've traded my whole team away. Good for you. Show them more. Just keep trading, man. Draft picks don't score points, but they also never get old. Corey MB, thoughts on ETN? I think it's a strong buy, and for running back right now, that's rare. Because everyone's in on Cam Akers, everyone's in on Jonathan Taylor. Mostly, I'm only interested in really cheap kind of running backs for this time of year. ETN just kind of getting overlooked a little bit. I've had him on my list for the last few weeks for that reason. Just because, again, his value is going to spike. He's a young running back we're going to assume takes the role from James Robinson. I think James Robinson wins, but I'm also a slave to value, and ETN's probably going to go up a lot. As for who he is, great profile from college, great draft capital to a bad team, with an already present good running back. Who, again, that coaching staff is going to be different. We don't know how that's going to land. But that's not really about ETN. That's a terrible thing for running backs, man. They don't seem able to force the issue as much. He's kind of at the whim of where that coaching staff lands, who ends up the job. And that's not to say everything he's done on a football field, I think, has been good.
The latest DLF ADP. So for was this January now? Is that where we're at? We're in January.
We're in January. I'm pretty sure.
So the latest the January DLF ADP has ETN at running back 19. As soon as you see a video in training camp It's going up as soon as you do. Like, to me, he and Michael Carter, who Michael Carter's going as the running back 24, those two guys are probably the biggest risers for running backs that, again, you don't buy now, but ETN you can buy. I mean, maybe
that's what I mean. Now. You can actually buy ETN right now.
They're
very rare.
Yeah. And like, I'm not even a big ETN
no, I can't wait for it to happen because I want to be back on the James Robinson trade. Yeah. And I can't do that until ETN's value skyrockets, and I think it will.
I'm just waiting now. I've got ETN on my taxi squad in No Name, and as soon as I see that the shirtless video of him slow-mo, running or doing the ladder drill or something, I am putting him up on the trading block so fast. It's going to be fantastic.
And to be clear, this isn't like for your stupid league mates. If it's not then, it's when the practice games come up, or it's when the preseason games come up, or it's when he actually probably gets a job, at least in a game, and they're like, look, there's a first-round running back who's always been good. He's back from his health, back from his injury. Like, that's Cam Akers, but we haven't seen as much of him yet. Like, even your good league mates who know their stuff will know the value is there. The production could very likely be very high. James Robinson plus, because first-round draft capital. And his value will spike. It's not a stupid take. It's just that people are lagged on it right now. And so that's why I think he's a strong buy. I really do think Robinson wins a job eventually, but that's because I like to stay on team unlikely. And I love Robinson, undrafted free agent. Hey, Pete. Hey, Zach. Which tight end is the most realistic upside? Njoku, Trotman, Brevin Jordan?
Shrugs.
Shrugs in nerd.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're all kind of off my list. Yeah, I don't have any of them. Let's see. Njoku's definitely got the athletic profile. But his value will be hard to ever spike where he's disappointed dynasty players. Probably Brevin Jordan for value and Njoku for production. Trotman, I gave up on that while ago, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's no. I think you hit. I think you hit that. Like, it's, but they're all kind of uninspiring. I think that Brevin Jordan is probably if you're talking upside where we're cheating and we say value upside or production upside, it's definitely Brevin Jordan.
Always use the dynasty cheat code, man.
Well, that's it. I mean, you've got to, if you're doing this sort of thing, you've got to be able to like spin the question around and answer it the way you want to. And so, yeah,
the minute he does anything, and he should start to do things from next year on. I mean, something. He's high drafted, and he's a good athlete. Nerds like me will be telling you he was a larger part of his team's receiving game than Kyle Pitts was, drafted in the same year. Tight ends normally don't break out year one. Yeah, I think there could be a value jump, but Brevin Jordan could also just be a good NFL player, like Gerald Everett or whatever. But even Everett receives a spike eventually when he did score some touchdowns, Not even going to try it. Hey, guy. Trevontae, Dobbins, Penny, Michelle, I'm guessing, and Chris Evans at running back, and I feel like double dipping on rookie wide receiver with a 101 and the 201. Is it wrong? My wide receivers are CD, Elijah, Devontae, Claypool, Rondell.
Best available.
Best.
Yeah, draft for value, trade for need. That's a dynasty outhouse. Even though he's not here, he's here in spirit. So yeah, like I right now, I think without seeing draft capital, which is a big piece of the puzzle, without seeing landing spot, which is another fairly substantial piece of the puzzle, I don't see why taking Burks at 101 wouldn't be a good idea. And then at 201, whatever. I mean, you got 15 wide receivers that are all the same guy to choose from, so you might as well. Sorry.
Which name do you prefer, I guess? Yeah, it's a little hard. I would say, and the bigger thing Zach said there for me is don't predict who you're going to pick right now, because then when you get to the draft, you're like, bro, I was going to take Burks, but he was drafted in the 7th round. Like, it's really up in the air, but I think,
that's the Hakeem Butler corollary. where everyone had Hakeem Butler was DLF's wide receiver. Well, the 101 in that class. Like he was the guy. No, and not mine either, but he was
very loud on that
until the draft. And as soon as he got drafted in the did he go in the 4th round? Yeah, because I think he was like the 2nd pick on day 3. And as soon as that happened, it was just like letting all the air out of the balloon. You got the
he could have gone 101 in the NFL draft, and I would have been very
AJ Brown, baby. No, wait, you had N'Keal Harry there. I forget. Sorry. Did I lose you?
I think I lost you too. Well, we found each other again. It's okay. That was a weird year. Joshua Beebe, hey, I see Jones as next Derek Carr. Jones?
Mac Jones. Mac. Sorry, not
maybe develop into a Cousins. Wow. Want Hurts more by a good bit, but I play in 18-month windows. That's fine.
Yeah.
Mac Jones or Lance? Mac Jones.
Yeah.
I continue to take the under on all the Twitter film evaluators.
Well, and look, it's just his legs. It's literally that's the piece of Trey Lance that everyone is banking on is his legs.
Yeah, it's Mac Jones for me. Yeah, and that's why Lance goes well before Jones in startups. I would trade Lance for whatever plus for Mac Jones, or the other way around. You know what I mean? Like it's just too high for me. Trey Lance ADP on startups is around Highland. Yes, this is exactly what I'm saying. It's not like I don't get it. It's that you're already paying for it. I don't get that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And when when I notice something like that, it's like I get it, but that's insane. Like
it's what we
very
do
clear to me, and I could be wrong. I just kind of go all in on no, and that's where I'm at with Lance. Like you're not convincing me to be this stupid. Even if it works out, I don't care.
It was Carson Wentz as the quarterback 1 overall in Dynasty after his first year. It's the Baker Mayfield as quarterback 3 overall after his first year. We've gotten to this point where in order to be in on a guy, you have to put him so far above everybody else that it's not worth there's no meat on the bone. There's no, if you're wrong, that hurts a ton. Whereas somebody like Mac Jones, if you're wrong on Mac Jones, you take him at quarterback 16, that doesn't hurt. If you're wrong on Trey Lance at quarterback 7, that hurts a lot.
For me, it's like the elite room of those takes. It honestly, the one it reminds me is Tyler Boyd falling 10 rounds after his good rookie season. Because everyone knows the future. Everyone knows he's just this or he's just that or this is going to happen. I'm like, all that could happen. I agree. You're being stupid to bet on it that strongly. Like, I don't need Tyler Boyd or any of that. And that's what it is with Lance. Like, I get it. It'd be great. But that's insane. Sorry. It just is. Pat Coughlin. The Pat Coughlin? Need to buy a QB in 1 QB PPR. Thanks for the PPR note. Kyler, a lot. How much would I need to give, or who would you be? Sorry, I can't read. Who would be a good target? Have guys like Tua and Lawrence. Yeah, I would add whatever I needed to. That's Kyler is one of those quarterbacks that he's in that category. Like, yeah, it's fine to take a good player that you think has good value, but a lot of upside, add something to him, go get Kyler Murray. I think that's fine. I don't really want to add more than a first or a first round value to someone like Tua to get Kyler, but I would do it. Lawrence, I'd have a little more leeway. There's more questions there.
And the funny thing is you'd be closer to getting Kyler for Lawrence and a first than you would be with Tua. So, I mean, that'd be where I would be. Is my immediate thought is I would be trying to trade Lawrence and something to get Murray. Again, in a one quarterback league, you don't need all 3 of those quarterbacks. You don't. Lance, I would probably hang on to just because in the off chance that he does have that rushing upside to be a top 3 or 4, but the other two are expendable. Like you don't need quarterbacks. You need Kyler Murray. Like that's really what you need in one quarterback league.
He asked, Pat asked, or who would be a good target. 2 is honestly one of my targets, but that doesn't mean you can't trade him. It's like if he's on someone else's roster, I think I am cheaper. Who are my targets? Who do I really want? It's Kyler Murray, Pat Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. That's pretty much my list. And then on the value list, it's maybe Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, some old guy that's really good, or Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Again, in one quarterback, like you want a top 5 quarterback scoring wise. It doesn't have to be a top 5 dynasty quarterback because sometimes we do crazy things. But in my one quarterback leagues, I try to end up with Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray.
Dak's on there too.
Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, obviously, because he's been the back-to-back. But then you can also patch it together with somebody like Tom Brady.
So, yeah, let me try and boil that down to one name. Kyler Murray is a great one. If that's who you want, no questions. A mix between value and who's tradable and who has this production upside. Honestly, Jalen Hurts sticks out to me. So I'm going to boil it down to that. If you're not going to go get Kyler, go get Hurts. I think you get him less. And I think the production's there. Kid Coop, what would you do with Dalvin Cook at this point? I mean, what's the trade? Dump him now before his value. I think his value is already questionable in Dynasty since we started the offseason. And the injury history.
I would be kicking the tires on trades right now while it's still the name value Dalvin Cook, and we're hoping that somebody will bite.
And I hate to do the Dynasty cheat code, but where is it you said earlier? If you can run it back, if your team can win next year, like you really think it's going to win, just keep Dalvin Cook. Yeah. If you're anything less than that, yes, you should absolutely try and trade him now. And don't trade him for peanuts, but yes, you should absolutely try and trade him now.
Yeah, I mean, he's still the running back 6
and he's actually an amazing player.
Yeah,
legitimately. Who do you all think is the most value in 2+ years in PPR Superflex? Juju, Wentz, Rondo, Tony, Kirk, Gabe Davis. I think
probably Kirk
in 2 years.
Yeah, because he had a good year this year.
In 2 years,
if he has a good year next year, in 2 years he'll be the most valuable. I'm worried about Rondale Moore. I am.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried. Just a little.
I'm worried. It's the same thing you said about Deontay Johnson is when a guy gets pigeonholed into a role, the NFL doesn't care what he can do. They care what he's done. And if you're giving him the ball a yard and a half past the line of scrimmage, that's not using Rondale Moore to the best of his ability. And it really concerns me.
Otherwise, the answer for me is Rondale Moore. But since I'm not confident enough to say that right now, so I'll go with Juju. Honestly, it's never Kirk. Kirk's like 3rd on this list. For me, I love Kirk. I think he's good, and I think we've seen good, and we'll keep seeing good. But if I'm betting on who has more value, Juju just has to stay healthy for a year, and I honestly think he has more value by next year. The real answer is Rondale Moore. If he can pull out of, and his rookie season wasn't bad. That's the thing. Like I'm waiting to see what we do with him in terms of dynasty rankings, or ADP, but like it was pretty good. You know, it was a little less than you want, but it's pretty good overall.
So, do you think because and the kind of temperature of the room in Dynasty is Rondale Moore didn't have a good rookie year, especially because people had him, and I'm guilty of that. Like people had him really highly rated, and he didn't perform up to Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, like the expectation. And do you think you could go in this draft because people were taking him in the 2nd? Do you think you could get him for a 2nd or like maybe a 2nd and a third or two, like a second this year and a second in 2023.
Maybe. I tell you the signal I'm waiting for to make a kind of push me one or the other. It's basically next month's ADP. If Rondo more tanks in round, like if he's being drafted 3-4 more rounds less than where he was this time last year, I'm in. I think the value's there for the upside. If he's around about the same, I think the market's, adjusted fine and he's good to go, but the value isn't there to go trade for him.
You know what's wild to me is in January's ADP, Rondale Moore and Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is the wide receiver 38. Rondale Moore is the wide receiver 39. There is zero respect on Hunter Renfrow.
There's zero. So yeah, to answer your question, Evan, I think it's Juju, but there's a chance it's Rondale Moore, and I'm interested to see if I can buy him. Zach thinks it's Kirk, and I think that's fair. I think that's a safe bet. Tailor-made. Just traded Michael Carter, right? The 101 and 24 first. Okay, good job. Gabe Davis for Jamar Chase. Thoughts?
Win.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't even have to be a 24 first. Any first.
Here, I'll shake your hand.
And that. Yeah. Seems like a show-off trade, and I'm glad you brought it along. Like, I love seeing those. That's fine. Good job. Rondale Moore needs to get needs what to get Debo? I don't know at this point, but I want Debo.
Oh! I thought he meant like what he needs to get to Debo in terms of like as a player. Because it's not even in the same ballpark in terms of like what they do on the field, but trade wise, that's the next one says trade wise. I just hadn't gotten down there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we're going to settle on Amon-Ra, but I think it's going to be a lot. It's at least a first, maybe even more. And I think that's right. I think Debo should be exceptionally. I have Debo in my top 12, which I think is fairly unusual as well from what I've seen so far. But who has those players in your league is going to determine that. I would add a first, like really, really willingly to Amon-Ra to get to Debo. Like his first round pick. It's Traylon Burks, who knows? And I feel real solid about that offer too. Like I think it's fair.
Debo's up to wide receiver 9, and St. Brown is wide receiver 25. So yeah, at least a first, probably something else, but
probably. Nicholas, welcome back. I've gotten 222 firsts, a 323 firsts, 223 seconds, 324 firsts, way too far in advance, but whatever. 220. I mean, that's where you need to go, honestly, for rebuilding. It's 2024 at this point. That's fair. In trades the past couple of weeks, I'm rebuilding. My last old guys are Chubb and Waller to trade. Difficult trades right now, too.
Yeah, I think you'll have better luck with Waller in season next year when he gets healthy.
Right. For sure. Maybe even Chubb. When Chubb gets back to literally being one of the best running backs in the NFL, it'll probably be easier to trade. David Shaheen, I have the 101 in a 12-team Superflex. Don't worry, I traded for it. Okay. Rookies aside, what are some possible trade avenues you would explore to trade down or trade for a veteran? Good question. Do you have any veterans in mind?
I don't know if I have any veterans in mind right off the top of my head, but I think what I definitely would be looking to trade down. And again, we talk about acquiring the 23 picks. If you can trade down to a lower pick, somebody who thinks that they know more than they do and had a good year this year, acquire that 23 pick and then add, like an early second or whatever. I think that's a good way to do it. In terms of veterans, I don't know what the 101 is going to be worth yet. It's so early to me to even fathom what the 101 is going to slot in being.
Yeah, what I was going to say is just from what I know right now, there's nothing else in this draft I'm desperate to trade for. So if I don't want the 101, I want to trade out to the next draft and grab a veteran. As far as what veteran it is, again, your league values may differ. Veterans I've got in mind that I might be think of pretty good values. Michael Thomas, but I don't think Dynasty players are crazy enough to give up Michael Thomas just to get the 101 this year. But maybe if they're thinking it's Breece Hall and he's a running back, maybe. But if I'm gonna try and guarantee getting that next year pick as well, Marcus Brown, he's on my list.
How about the kind of the unsexy? So when we talked about Deontay Johnson as not being a very sexy player, and if somebody is looking at a quarterback, or AJ Brown is kind of in that area where like he had a down year, he didn't perform like people thought he was going to.
AJ Brown's a good one too.
I think he was nicked up. Like that's the type of player where, especially in a super flex, where
is he old now? Am I allowed to put him on that list? Okay, he's on.
He's 24,
no question.
but
that's old now. Awesome.
But that's that's the type of, especially in a super flex league where quarterback is down this year, but somebody is going to have to be trading for a quarterback. Somebody's going to have to move up or want to move up. And if you can add a player like AJ Brown for that 101 in a super flex, or Deontay Johnson, like those are players that I'm looking to go get.
Honestly, I'm greedy. I don't think my mind's on veterans necessarily just to trade the 101. I would be looking for a 2023 first and Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore. What can I do with this 101 to get a trade like that? I even add some player on my roster to get a 23 first and Devontae Smith or Elijah Moore. Those would probably be top of my list. But yeah, just gotta say that. Try and trade down to a mid-late first pick and pick up a 2023 first. And I think that's fine too. It's just I'd be more interested in a player than a later pick in this draft. If I'm out, I'm out. But if that's a trade you can get, I think it's fair too. But I'd wait until the NFL Combine. Yeah, again, draft picks are going to continue to accrue value.
Well, and also, I mean, you're assuming that Burks is going to be the 101 too.
And based on some rumblings I'm hearing, that he might be lower drafted than we're expecting right now.
Yeah,
I've heard he can't run routes. Twitter getting involved. I don't know that I care.
He's a slot receiver, Peter. He's a slot receiver.
I don't care. They can say it as much as they want. I will never think Riley Ridley is good. And no, I don't care. But it can. If that's popping off for film, then it could for some scouts, and it could for draft value, and then Trey Burks starts to fall, which means that I still like his production just as much, but I don't have to have the 101 or 1-2.
He feels AJ Brownish to me.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's some remarkable comparisons to be made to AJ Brown. What should I offer with Waller or Goddard for Fairmouth? You shouldn't have to add, but I do. Fairmouth has hit the top 12 in Dynasty. Like he's in the top 12, and it feels like half of us know that, and half of us are like, who? What? Fairmouth? Because his production fell off after a couple of weeks, and so he hit the top 12, and then so he's there but not there. But Waller and Goddard both have more sure top 5 upside. You should be getting something with Fairmouth to trade down to Fairmouth,
right?
And if the half of Dynasty that doesn't quite realize he's top 12 right now is the one rostering him, you can get that. So I try and do that.
Also, Freiermuth was would he have 7 or 8 touchdowns? And again, like depending on what happens with the quarterback situation, if they don't replace Roethlisberger with somebody competent, they're not going to score. Like they are very bad. As bad as Roethlisberger is at throwing the ball downfield, he's all right at throwing the ball 6 yards and kind of matriculating the ball down the field. I feel like it should be like NFL films where Lambeau Field matriculating the ball, But that's what Roethlisberger did this year, and they were reasonably successful, and Freiermuth benefited from that. So it to the tune of, like I said, 7 or 8 touchdowns. I'd have to look that up, but it was a lot.
Yep. Evan, Nicholas, I still have one. Yeah, and I don't know. I got to have a sincere conversation with Dynasty Outhouse. Is it just that he burnt him this year? But he is so out and Waller, and I'm like, I don't understand why.
Yeah,
Tight ends
top
just
5.
stick around.
Yeah,
Easily.
7 touchdowns for Frymuth.
He's as much still Waller as Kelsey is still Kelsey, and no one's really worried about that. Well, a few people because of his age. Had CMC and Barkley as running back too, so it's certainly safe to say JT outscores both of them by a lot. Yeah, that's painful. Yeah. Nicholas, 105 in the second this year for Chubb. Got the 103 and 107 so far. Like, I don't want more draft capital in this draft class. I hate to be that guy, but I'm like, I'm good. I'm good on 2022. Yeah. That's honestly my feeling. And I think if you can't get it now, in season, you can probably get what you want for Chubb. So
if you want my feelings on the 2022 class, go to your Apple Podcast app, download Dynasty Dummies episode 213 and listen to the first minute and 6 seconds, because I did a parody song about this class, and I called the parody song Good Charlotte, Bad Class, and I did it to Good Charlotte's song Anthem. So go that'll tell you everything you need to know about what this class feels like.
And again, friendly reminder, good players come from bad classes all the time. What we're talking about is the difference between the ease of spotting the different kind of players in this class versus last year or the year before. Not even the number of good players, just the ease with which it will be to rank and spot. Like last year, I wanted to parade out my rookie ranks from last year. Here's the thing. Most of us got it almost exactly right. That's what made it such a good class. There were so many, and also there was so easily to spot these guys are better than most. But there are some classes where we still average around 11 players with 2+ seasons of fantasy relevance for all classes, okay? So there are definitely good players here. They're just harder to spot, which means like Keenan Allen falls a little bit in the draft, gets drafted in the second round of rookie drafts. Kenny Golladay falls into the second round of rookie drafts. It's not that we didn't notice them. So they were a little hard to separate out from some of the others, so we drafted them a little lower, even if we like them more than average because of where they played or they weren't quite as standout. So good players are here, for sure. It's not like 2022 class sucks for fantasy. It's more a willingness to bet on our accuracy of selecting the right ones is enormously lowered. You know, that's the way I think of it anyway. That's what helps me. Maybe it doesn't help you, but that's the way I'm thinking when I say bad class. It's just harder to spot the ones that are going to be good.
I keep going back to this metaphor, but it's a prairie. Like it's literally all flat, and you're trying to figure out like
there's a tree hiding behind one of those bushes.
Yeah,
okay, there's a tree
out, and it's just all flat, and it's like,
Do I trade Jonathan Taylor for Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase? Yes,
but
yeah, I would. I'm just going to say yes. We could do the whole caveat thing. They're in your league, and what's your team look like? But yeah, I'm doing that because it's Dynasty, and that's unfortunately the way it goes. Despite Jonathan Taylor clearly being the difference maker there. Reed Hopkins, Amari. I've got Chase, Najee Akers, Dobbins, the 3, Elijah Moore, Bateman, Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. Claypool got it in the 20. Okay. And the 2023 first, I got Hopkins and Amari. Yeah, again, that's fair value, and your team doesn't. You don't need things, so you're just getting good value. I get it. Rattler isn't in the draft. He's going to SC. I don't know what SC is, but yeah, kind of
South Carolina.
Kind of why I asked. Probably could be Sports Center for all I know. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm profiling everyone DLF has listed as potentially 2022 prospects. We literally don't even know who everyone who's going to declare or go back to school yet. So it's worth noting. Thanks for telling me on that Rattler, though, because that lets me know I'm going to have to change that. I think Rattler is transferring and not declared. Yeah, I was joking. I know what you meant. It's fine. South Carolina. He did that before I made that joke. You get that because we're so far behind. He knew I was going to Anyway, Joe Herbert, Rattler transferred to South Carolina. Everyone's telling
did you
us from
hear?
like 10 minutes ago. Did you
Rattler
know?
went to South Carolina.
Jacob Callaway. He shouldn't, by the way. I really don't think players should stay in school, but there you go. First off season with all new players. Nice. 12-team Superflex. People don't value QBs as highly as the industry. That's fair. Should I change my value or draft? Draft for who you think's more likely to score more points.
Yeah,
that's it. What was it that Outhouse says? How does he say that?
Draft for value, trade for need. But the interesting thing is with this, you have ADP, you have all of this thing, but the A in ADP is average, which does not mean your league. So,
and you are aware of what your league likes. I think that's more important than anything.
If your league does not value quarterbacks, then that's fine. If you can get a top 5 quarterback for undervalue,
I would say that might be a plan of mine. See if I can double tap if I'm on a turn to those difference-making quarterbacks and be okay because if you're getting them lower value, be more willing to go in gung-ho. Because, frankly, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, they do make a significant difference. There's a reason that the industry or whatever is higher on them. But also, that means you can fade them a little bit more because you know more about your league. Leo
Pasiga.
Thank you. Kind of wait. Yeah, Johannes has got it. It's just QB, other valued Superflex. Yeah. I don't know what these are. So, yeah. I've been time-outing him just to see what happens. David Shaheen. Peter, I saw your wide receiver rookie ranks. Hey, thanks for checking them out. On Twitter today, I was surprised Drake London was down at wide receiver 8. Yeah, I didn't post the tiers. I don't think I posted the tiers. That might have made it clearer. I posted them later. He's in this tier of players I've got draft questions with. I like their production a lot more than some of them in tier 2, which is the Wilson and Pickens and Olave tier. But they come from lower conferences, are less often drafted. Like, is the NFL going to give them an opportunity here? And that's why they might look a little lower, because I do like his profile a lot. Yeah, it's called tier 3, interesting, but draft concerns.
I like the little shade.
I've got David Bell in there, and I freaking love David Bell. So, it's not a bad tier to be in.
I like the little shade, though, that David threw in there. Other analytically minded folks. None of you guys who are sitting in front of screens and drooling while guys run around with a football.
And it's fair. I'm a hybrid, I guess, in some ways, in that I make film grinders mad, and I also make a lot of nerds mad. So I don't care. Someone asked me about my ranks on there, and the thought occurred to me. I think I too am gun shy to admit I don't know everything, and I'm going to adjust these based on what other people tell me. Like, we're meant to know everything all the time, and I just want to go the other way. If someone tells me Drake London literally sucks, man, it's just the O-line, I'm not going to change his rank based on that, but I will take it into account. And right now I have more concerns where they're playing at lower conferences, at lower drafted conferences. Anyway, like, I've got a lot more to learn. And so I'm willing to separate out the solid players at higher conferences into the second tier. That's how Pickens ends up above them, and Wilson, and even Olave, to be honest with you. I got a lot to learn. It's fine. Alex. Yeah, Alec. Have the 101 and 102 and 108. Should I trade Hall, Burks, and whatever value is on the 108? Yeah. How about trading down?
Yeah, that's probably how it would happen.
Who else has a chance to make this top 2 besides Hall and Burks? Outside of quarterback, I think Spiller with draft capital could easily get in there. Apparently, I've just been told this Robinson guy, but let's not go there just yet. I would say there are some players in this class where if they were getting more hype or if they were drafted in the first 3 rounds, I would be strongly interested. Like Rashad White. He's got draft concerns, but his production's really good once you take it all into context. He has 2 of the best seasons. He has 2 seasons that rank up there with Breece Hall and, frankly, a little better than Spiller. It's just that one was shortened to like 4 games. There's a lot of that going on, as you might remember from pandemic type stuff. So it's whoever gets draft capital. And there's going to be at least, as far as I can tell, there's going to be at least 3 Trey Sermons and Keyshawn Vaughns. That's my fear. But yeah, I don't see anyone who clearly fits in there outside of Spill.
I have Hall and Burks like clearly and away the 2 top players. So
look, I haven't even looked at tight end, but I've got a tier 1 running back and a tier 1 wide receiver, and there's 1 in each tier. That means they stand out above the others for me. London was my wide receiver too. I would agree. In fact, I wouldn't say he's my 2. I actually say David Bell would be my 2. But he easily, I like his prediction profile a lot more than my rank. Like you say, wide receiver 8. He finished 8th in my model. I've got him ranked 5th, so that's Bell. Hang on, where am I? Yeah. Model ranked him 5th, and I would be much happier with it there. I just happen to know where he's playing, and there's more draft concerns. That's literally my problem, or not the issue. I've been trying to get better at that because not so long ago I would have put it like Burks, Drake London, and probably David Bell in a solid tier 1, and then everyone else. But I'm trying to get better. It's okay to know that these things, that these players are less likely to get draft capital. They were playing in a slightly different conference that's a little harder to compare directly to, say, a Burks or a Wilson or a Pickens for that matter. But yeah, definitely don't disagree with the ranks. ETN's value should be higher on DLF. Yeah, and I really think it's going to go up. It's one of the things, though, like the DLF rank is low. What does a person in your league feel? Because they might be, like, they should be higher, and maybe they are, which means it'll be difficult value to acquire, but I definitely think it's a thing worth investigating.
But again, he's been out of sight, out of mind, which is a great thing if you...
Okay.
No, that's it. Like, that's if you can go get him, I think out of sight, out of mind, kind of artificially steps on his value.
No, Corey Dean was just pointing out we've got 35 watching and 14 likes. Let's go. And I was enjoying how excited he is. Yeah, I stopped watching at 33. We usually top out around 33, and that's really exciting. And the minute it gets more than that, I get incredibly self-conscious and I stop watching. So it's good to know it's gone up to at least 35 at least. FS Spaceman, hey buddy, how you doing? This man has a database, by the way, that you should really check out for free. How come Pierre Howdy is making the rest of us look bad by getting all of his rookie databases out? So I don't know why I'm ahead of the curve this year. I'm just accepting it. Okay. And the reason, again, in the sources tab, check out the friends links. You know who they are, Spaceman. And this year, Xeno,
the Dude Z.
What is his Twitter? At the Dude Z _ the Dude Z. He got to it sooner than Matt Spencer or anyone else who helps me out with that stuff. And he just got me a swath of data, and I had nothing else to do because it's just the playoffs. So I was able to punch it out of it. And also DLF. Shout out to the thing we're on. They actually have done a really good job nailing down their age of future prospects. There's literally like 180 that might be drafted over the next 3 years, and that's normally more than I see, and they all seem accurate so far. So that took a lot of the work out right there. So the Devi age table, let me know if you need those, by the way, Spaceman. They've done, the Devi crew over at DLF is absolutely killing it. They must be to be that far ahead. Like, I've got data bursts for 2024 prospects, and that's insane. Like, accurate data bursts, not probably around January. I don't know. Like, there's actually their data burst. Hey, I'm good taking notes. Thanks. It's weird. Appreciate it. Joe Herbert, CeeDee Lamb has now logged 2. Yeah. I'm trying to remember his first name. Cooper. I just think of him as Cooper. Cooper Adams. There we go. He's taking his CeeDee Lamb victory laps. Yeah, this year was disappointing overall for CeeDee Lamb. I'll admit it. I still think I've taken him off my like elite tier buy list because it's concerning. But I still think he's so young and he's done so much already in the NFL. Adjusted for the fact he's sharing a field with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Like, I think it's really impressive still, but he's I understand the separation out between him, Jefferson, and Chase. I do. Still really like him. I think he's very good. CeeDee Lamb is overrated. Yeah, but yeah.
But again, I think it's that.
I don't know if T. Higgins is much better.
It's the same phenomenon where like we're running out to like crown guys when like CeeDee Lamb is really good, but going out and saying he's a top 5 wide receiver in his rookie year.
I mean, I've put Javonte Williams. I'm stepping to the same process. I mean, Javonte Williams isn't the running back 5. I think I have him as, but for Dynasty, he kind of is. For CeeDee Lamb, I think that's fair. I've got him as like 3, to be fair. But yeah, okay. I can take my L if CeeDee Lamb keeps being a top 24 wide receiver. So has Maury Cooper, and it's yet to hurt me. And I liked him a lot too. Would you trade the 2.03 for Brandon Cooks? Yes. Any draft. Jesse Riddle, what do you think of Michel's value in Superflex PPR? If you can get a second, do it.
I paid a second to go into the playoffs this year with him, but now he's not worth a second.
I think it's probably worth a third if someone's just crazy. But trade him. Run back. I would trade him for a second. TaylorMade. I get it now. Yeah, TaylorMade. I get it. Cheap RB to target for the 2022 draft. He's not talking for 2022. He's not talking rookies. And need depth. Have JT Gibson, Connor, Vaughn, Moss. Vaughn and Moss. Geez, painful. So's Connor. I think Gibson's actually probably one of the better answers here, but you've already got him. Cheap running back. Kenneth Gainwell, Chuba Hubbard, Jamal Williams, Jarrett Patterson, Kalen Hill, Kylan Hubbard. Those are my cheap running backs.
I would say how cheap. I mean, if you're talking, Josh Jacobs is pretty cheap, and it should be good again. But if you're talking like what Peter said, if you're talking like bottom of the barrel cheap, then yeah. I mean, maybe even Devin Singletary, kick the tires on him. I don't love it, but he's been good the last 3 months. He's had most of the carries, been all right, and again, cheap running back that should end up being a running back too. I mean, that's not a bad one.
Yeah, I just don't care about top 24 running backs, but Josh Jacobs is fine, so is Miles Sanders. Define cheap, and I can probably get you a better answer, but those are actually the type of running backs I'm interested right now. It's the depth chart running backs, who I think are pretty decent, done more than maybe some people think, who could be the waiver wire ad in week 3 or whatever. Those are actually the ones I tend to gravitate towards anyway, and you said cheap, so I'm taking the app. The Beast 2774 10-team Superflex PPR Team A Gibson, Antonio Gibson. Team B, the 104 and the 105, the 205. Reading. Which side do you like more?
Gibson for me.
Gibson, and he's someone I am interested in trading in that value tier. I don't expect to get this value right now, but if you can, then I should start saying it. Honestly, if you can get him for a first and a second, you get Antonio Gibson. Yeah, that's really good. Again, I guess I just time out this person too. I don't know what they are. I'm sorry if they're not weird, but or they're actual questions I can't read, but I don't know what they are. Kyle Sinra. Hey. Jesse Riddle. Talent is important, but it's thought to rank rookies until we see landing spot. Tough to rank rookies until we see landing spot, especially when it's clear. Yes and no. We overread landing spot every year for every position. We do. Yeah. Like, I almost like not know. I wish I could know the draft capital and not the landing spot. How about that? But yeah, I get what you mean. You want to put it all into context. Is DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson? That's really exciting. Or is he with Ben Roethlisberger? Probably less exciting.
But I like to do the evaluations now. I mean, that's Otherwise, why not wait? I mean, yeah. Why are you doing it? But like,
I actually,
for me, it's I like to get a lay of the landscape. I like to understand who I think are the better players. And then when you get the draft capital, it becomes a little clearer. But you also have these players. A couple years ago, was James Robinson, who didn't get the draft capital, but I liked him as a player. And so I drafted him in the 5th round of all my rookie drafts. And not many other people were doing that. And that was a win.
I try to stick to a loose tier for a variety of reasons as far as the process goes. And the one is I like to just go look because one, I don't know the teams. I don't know these names, but you do hear some names just on the grapevine. Like I knew Traylon Burks' name. I've heard of Kenneth Walker before. I was surprised not to like his numbers as much, but I try to do it without that just because I don't know anyone. I find, it's interesting to see who I don't like Kenneth Walker that much, who is big. Not because then I'm more right, just because it tells me where there might be an issue with my reading of it or where there might be an inaccuracy in the number. The problem is right now where I'm starting to put out ranks is people are saying, what about Robinson? And I'm like, who? And then I go look knowing something about the player. Now, I'm not saying like I've got to stay pure or whatever, but I'm squinting at Brian Robinson right now because Zach and Fusu Vu have all mentioned him to me because my ranks are out, which means I'm probably giving him a little more scrutiny early than I did someone like Kenneth Walker. So it's a little unfair. So, and I try to get my vision out or my reading of the first glance, and then I take like Zach and Fusu start telling me who I'm wrong about. Travis May always as well ready to tell me I've got Dotson. He's someone he's pointed out to me already. And I go and squint a little harder. And normally I'm like, oh yeah, I see what I've done right or wrong. And I like that coming in after. I don't know if it's even your question, but I like getting opinions from other people. I know I'm personally very influenced by people I know who are good. Like Zach tells me Brian Robinson's pretty good. I'm like, I'm going to move him up anyway. I need to have some level of understanding of what I think of them before I let that happen because I'm too easily influenced. Like you got to know by people I respect at least. So that's just knowing your own faults. You know what I mean?
And the other thing
maybe you're not. Maybe you can take on everyone's opinions and you're still going to think what you're going to think. I know I'm gonna listen to people I respect pretty hard.
Well, and that's why I do all of my film evaluation before I listen to anybody.
I think that's what I was trying to tack onto that.
I want to be in the cone of silence because I want my evaluation to be my evaluation and not Ray Garvin's and not Peter Howard's and not Fusu Vu's and not Travis May's. Like I want it to be mine. And then
I got
the other piece of this is these rankings pre-draft will change a little bit post-draft. But it's nice to have that pre-draft ranking because then I know what I thought versus what the NFL thought. And there are players that even though the NFL took Henry Ruggs in the top 15, he is not a player. He was outside of my top 10 wide receivers that year. And that's not a player that I'm interested in, even if the NFL tells me that's first round draft capital. Now, if he was up in like tier 2 and he gets first round draft capital, sure. Like that's obviously you have to listen to that. But to me, there's some value in understanding where I have players in tiers because sometimes the NFL is drafting because they are valuable to an NFL team.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Like Ruggs running a fly route, a 9 route, and pulling the high safety, and now all of a sudden the middle of the field is open for Darren Waller, or Hunter Renfrow. Like that's valuable to an NFL team. It's not as valuable to my fantasy team, and so that's something too that ranking these players now and having an idea of what you think about players before the draft happens and not being 100% influenced by draft capital, even though draft capital is way more accurate for kind of a myriad of reasons. It's you think about not only is it how the NFL thinks about how good the players are, but once they've drafted them, you've sunk that cost of not only the pick, but the price tag, their contract. So if it's a first round player, you're spending more money on them, which means they're going to get more opportunity, which means they're going to get chances to fail N'Keal Harry and fail N'Keal Harry and fail N'Keal Harry. But he did make a nice block at the end of the year this year. I saw that.
Shut up. No, it's like just mantras you tell yourself. Like when posting my rankings, people are challenging me with what players can do. And I just have to keep reminding myself, I'm not doing that. And it's not because I don't think that's valuable or that's why I'll listen to other people. It's like stick to what you're doing. I'm trying to find the most fair comparison between how well this player compares to a successful player. That's it. Not what they can do, not how they do it. And because I feel myself doing it, people are like, Drake London is good. And like, oh, yeah, he's great, man. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a fair comparison of how well they rate past players who've been good. And where they're playing and where they're drafted matters to that. And just keep bringing myself back to that. I don't know what talent is, let alone how well to define it or how well it fits with a landing spot. But I can come up with a reasonable comparison, just based on experience and also a couple of numbers and models and stuff of and then adjust it by some common mistakes it makes. Wilson compares better to past successful players for fantasy because I know where he's playing matters, and there is probably a competition difference, but numbers don't quite spit out what well enough, so I have to hand do it. And I just try and bring myself back to what I do. Remember, I literally don't know who's good or describe who can do what. That's for Zach to do. You've heard him do it. I have the 101 and the 107. Who should I try to grab at either? Don't know. And
it's still too early.
Hall at 7. I'm probably hoping Olave right now falls down there because I'm guessing people don't have him as ranked as high as I do. But I'd be really happy with Drake London there. I'd be really happy with David Bell there.
Garrett Wilson there. Yeah. I think the player for me, and he'll probably end up going further down than the 107, but the player for me that I'm interested in, that I'm going to have ranked highly, but you won't have to draft highly, and I have one of these every year, and that's going to be Pickens. I don't.
Pickens is That's what I said. He's interesting.
Yeah. So, and Riley Bymaster the other day asked me, he's like, "What do you think Pickens' ceiling and floor is?" And I was like, "His floor is really low. Like he could be nothing. Yeah. Like he literally could be nothing. But I think his ceiling is AJ Brown. I mean, AJ Green. Sorry, wrong color. AJ Green.
I think it's notable that I want to like Pickens because, you know, Riley Ridley and McCall Hardman both came from that team, and everyone talked about how they need to be boosted up because of where they played. Right. Pickens genuinely doesn't need to be. He's proving that those players didn't need to be boosted. He played both of them significantly in the same, relatively similar situation. Like, I like Pickens a lot, if only because of that reason. Like, Pickens outplayed two terrible players, so we know he's at least better than them. So I'd say he's got a floor. At least McCall Hardman.
I said 60% of Marvin Jones, which is not great, but
I just want to say Wan'Dale Robinson because I'm not sure how many people are going to say it. I really like him. I think he's good. He's in that tier 3 for me with Bell and Drake London and Sky Moore, who I know you want to meme all over. Taylor made about right. I was trying to say players I can add that aren't high right now that could possibly that I'd call more risers. I mean, we just talked about Travis Etienne. I think he's a really good player who could have a lot more value, but he's a lot more expensive than the ones I was mentioning before. Also, Antonio Gibson, who you already have. Cam Akers, too late. I've got to take him off the list. He just went off. For a similar share of the offense with Sony Michel as he had with Darrell Henderson, we don't accept roles quick enough. But I do think he's a very good player who could hit, top 12 type production.
Now, is Taylor made talking about like waiver wire players or like just
he seems a little higher than that.
Yeah.
Just guys who are of value. And right now I'm not buying those players except maybe Travis Etienne and Gibson you've already got. But based on the trade we just heard, Gibson. But value players I've got right now: James Robinson, Darrell Henderson. I like Mitchell because I didn't think we'd be this high on him. Ramondre Stevenson, Myles Gaskin, Michael Carter. But not now. There's not the moves I'm making, because that list will change drastically based on all the risks running back carry in the offseason.
I would be interested in at least with what DLF has got for their latest ADP in Tony Pollard, who's right now running back 31 in the ADP, and just seeing how your league values him as he's a running back too. He's behind Zeke, who just finished as the running back 6 in season long. We don't divide that by the number of games; it's season long. And you know, maybe he's a running back that I think could see a huge jump if there's an injury to Zeke, because I think he's good enough and has shown that he will take that workload.
I'm just going to say Antonio Gibson. I know you already have him, because Travis Etienne is the right answer. But here's the thing. Like, if you go get Etienne and then the season comes around and you're like, hey, this James Robinson fella is doing stuff, I'm going to be like, yeah, but I was always going to sell him, and that's a shit thing to do to someone asking you advice. Whereas Gibson, if I could get him for the first and the second, someone just said, I would get him and plan to play him next year. Etienne's more because I expect him to be more highly valued, so then I would trade, and that's a different kind of a thing. So Gibson is probably the best target I can name right now, outside of that discount, really cheap waiver wire type too. Yeah, I'm going to say that. David Sheen, Singletary has been on fire lately. I did not know. Like AJ Dillon style, or
better than AJ Dillon.
Oh, wow.
More than AJ Dillon. He's been
nice.
Yeah.
Including big usage in the first playoff game. Do we believe in the breakout? I believe Dynasty will up his value because of what player. It's one thing that I did hear noted the end of this season. I don't think I've heard before, but it's a really solid take, which is that players on playoff teams can increase their value through the playoffs, and so they're good targets. I think that's a really smart take. Do I believe it? No, I tend to think we overvalue it, honestly. But then again, Jacob Rickroad said that's what happened to Leonard Fournette. No one paid attention to him in the postseason. I think the Buffalo running back is always going to be a tenuous situation. Josh Allen runs. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are both capable of doing that. But they're players I'd add for a second if I'm looking for running backs, I guess.
It's, again, if you're looking at what people are excited about, it's fantasy points. And the reason why Devin Singletary has scored so many fantasy points in recent weeks is week 15, touchdown. Week 16, touchdown. Yeah. Week 17, 2 touchdowns. Week 18, touchdown. Last week against New England, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's really what's buoying his and do I think he's going to end up with, you know, the 16 or 17 or 18 rushes that he's seen in the last 4 weeks? No. He's probably going to go back down to 10 or 11 or 12 a game, but he has been very good.
Tim Shady asks, have we talked about Cam Akers? Has superhuman healing powers and is a top 10 dynasty running.
Was that 5 weeks? Was it 5 weeks ago? 5 weeks ago when Outhouse was here, and I said that he was going to be the guy that you should buy because his value is going to go crazy.
Yeah, and I said him and ETN both on the same list for the same reason. Yeah, I think we're there. That's the only thing, and that's the only thing I've mentioned about Cam Akers. Like, I think he's top 10 for everyone right now. And it was amazing to not see. I didn't actually get to see it, but amazing to know he's back on the field and healthy. I'm really happy to hear that. Just because, you know, you don't like to hear about a player that's hurt. But I would say, just at a glance, I went and looked. It looks like he's in more of a committee than people are going to admit. With Sony Michel this time. I think that's his role. I think that's what the team wants. I think he's exceptional in it. I think he's got top 12 upside. Plenty of running backs finish top 12 this year, and you don't love it. Because top 12 isn't all it's cracked up to be. But, yeah, Cam Akers is great. Cam Akers is great. I think the value's disappeared now, though. Am I right on that, Zach? You had a better read on it. Like
what, on Akers?
Yeah, are you getting him for Travis Etienne or Antonio Gibson prices right now?
Maybe Antonio Gibson. I don't think you're going to get it. I think he's kind of past them because he came back. He had 90 yards.
So.
He had 90 yards rushing the other day and 20 carries. So there's no question now in our minds that Cam Akers is healthy and can carry the workload. And that was a juicy a juicy spot to be in. Yeah. So.
Yep. I think we're on the same page. By evaluating rookie pre-draft, it prevents you from overcompensating for landing spot and maybe draft capital. Yep. For sure. Again, this is really early. I just happened to get to it early because I'm actually trying to create content rather than just do my... If I was just playing, I probably wouldn't start till a few weeks because you can get set in your takes. It was real hard to let go of Tyler Johnson. Like, I can't tell you how hard it was. And, there's some other examples. A lot of us like Kelvin Harmon a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Seemed like a really clean profile, and the NFL is just like, nah.
6th round. Yep.
And it's not that it's not good to know those players because I added them to taxi squads and stuff, and I still rostering Tyler Johnson, and sometimes it pays off. And so, like, exactly what you're saying, but you got to know yourself. You're going to get too attached to it, and
I am a lot more likely to drop somebody down when they don't get draft capital than I am to move them.
Yes,
when they do, and I think that's kind of the check and balance for me. Where again, if I have a player ranked highly and they don't go in the first 3 rounds, they're out. Like, they're just not. I missed, and that's fine. If I have a player ranked lower and they go in the first round, I'm like, look at those idiots in the NFL.
It's another Andy Isabella, I guess. I really fell for that one hard. Zeke and Pollard for A-Rob and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper side. I don't really care about A-Rob. It's just the good wide receiver, please. I think Zeke's value is really going to take a hit. I still think he's going to be good next year, though. Assuming. I can think 2 things. Love the candor and respect.
At once?
I know, right? I love the candor and respect the pre-draft talent evaluation, but I just think landing spot and draft spot are more important than talent for fantasy purposes. I don't think we know what talent is. I don't think you'll find a single person to define it to anyone's satisfaction.
I will give you A.J. Brown, who that was a terrible landing spot. Nobody liked him. Everyone was off him. I got him at 111, 112, 110 in every single rookie draft. And he was my wide receiver 1. And I will continue to be happy about drafting him there. Like, I think
I
you're
will
right.
Say, Jesse, yeah, I will admit you're perfectly right. I think if you just draft based on NFL order, you'd be doing fine. Yeah. I would say the whole point of this is I have, and Zach does, and most players that play Dynasty beat the NFL in terms of fantasy relevance, at least. But you can often the NFL.
You can use the NFL to beat the NFL. Like that's
the thing. We take what the NFL does and add our own little thing to it, and we're only looking for fantasy points. Not does it add to my team? Does it fit with my roster or my scheme? Like we can also adjust for this player. Like rounds 4 to 7. The reason there are so few hits isn't just there's no talent. Clearly, there are undrafted players who become fantasy relevant. There's talent left. It's more about they're looking for their special team players or the return gunners or the players they might like to fit into this unique role. They're looking for very different things. So we can beat them for fantasy because they don't give a frick about fantasy. Outside of that, the draft is really important. And you could do fine just following the draft, to be real clear. But we do try, what else are we doing? We're trying to do a little better than we could otherwise.
So, and the next comment that Jesse has. So I think you're misinterpreting what we're doing because I'm not evaluating for talent. Like I'm not trying to scout for the NFL. I'm evaluating fantasy football. Like full disclosure.
I'm
like
exactly
PPR
not
fantasy football.
I know what Jesse's. I find it too. I'm amazed by the number of some that are highly successful. Like they actually have a full-time position and they think they belong on a scouting team. Basically, they should be employed by the NFL. And I'm like, some people genuinely should. Some people seem to have chops. You'll never find someone like I don't want anything to do with that. I definitely don't know anything about that. literally, like I said, and comparing them to past fantasy relevant players to try and hit harder in fantasy. I should be nowhere near an NFL decision room. Like, no, thank you. I don't think I have anything to say about that. And neither does the NFL. So we're both in agreement. But yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Like the idea of fantasy players know who's the better football. I don't even know what a good football player is. Like, screw that idea. But yeah,
it just looks like Derrick Henry. That's what a good football player is.
I would encourage this thought process, Jesse. You're onto something. Yeah, it's true. We're literally not looking for that. Trust the NFL in terms of talent much more than any Muppet on Twitter, Ashton Springer. Wide receiver draft capital doesn't matter as far as running backs in fantasy, as much as running backs in fantasy. I got thoughts on that, but yeah.
Don't want
just because of what you said. Field stretchers versus slot wide receivers. Yeah. I would say so. But there's a lot of caveats to that, right? Wide receivers can force the issue. Never forget, hashtag Minnesota Vikings literally tried to replace and just not have to deal with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs when they drafted Treadwell. They legitimately thought they were replacing with a better wide receiver. But wide receivers can force the issue. The reason I wanted to like James Robinson but couldn't because they took Travis Etienne is because Travis Etienne is good, man. He's been good in college and the team clearly wants to use him and he had more draft capital. So in that way, it can be easier with running backs to believe in draft capital. It's kind of situational dependent after that. With wide receivers, I really think they can make it less relevant. If that makes sense. But yeah, and also we just have to I know we have to position these players, but I get a lot of benefit out of remembering they're just football players. They are all just football players. There's no two wide receivers that are the same, whether they're X's, Y's, Z's, freaking slot guys. They are all playing significantly different. And we call them all wide receivers, but there's a range, and Deebo Samuel is well within that range, by the way. But they're just playing football, man. The as far as the NFL goes, the positional tags only matter for salary caps, which is literally something we don't care about. Like Jimmy Graham, Jordan Reed, Travis, they have a legitimate gripe with being called tight ends, to be honest, because they're obviously very different kind of players. But they get different level of salary incomes because they're listed as tight ends. Yeah. Sorry, I went off on one there on something entirely different. But I think that's interesting, but not fantasy relevant. So long as you're willing to move off of talent evaluations after the draft when it's fair.
Somewhat. I'm stubborn.
I'm not doing talent evaluations. I'm just going to say it outright again. Yeah. I used to try to think of it that way. And I still try and write articles and make content like that because no one cares what a nerd thinks about how well a player compares in a certain stat that doesn't mean overall yards. So you write it like that and you talk about it like that. But it's not a talent evaluation. I don't even know how to define talent. I will stump up for the fact, no, I will hold fast to how well a player compares because I'm sorry, the NFL underdrafted Stephon Diggs, and it was always obvious. It was always obvious. And they overdrafted Treadwell, and it was always obvious. Like, it's not that I should be in an NFL room and they should listen to me. It's just for fantasy purposes, it was incredibly clear, and there was no question about it. And do I miss on some of those? Yeah, a lot. There's no reason Corey Davis shouldn't be exponentially better, but I did know that his numbers were created at a lower situation, so I'm not overly surprised. And I'm not surprised Thielen and Robbie Anderson were good for similar reasons. So I'm willing to modify because I'm not doing talent expectations and doing chances that they will score significant fantasy points. And I adjust the likelihood based on where they're drafted. But for wide receivers specifically, that's about opportunity, not talent, for sure. It's got nothing to do with talent even then. It's about Treadwell keeps getting opportunities. It's because he was drafted first round. We can find better players. They can find better players. at that level, and they're just not going to. He's going to keep going. Philip Dorsett, another clear one. It's just also not my game, so I'm willing to say, yeah, I don't know who's more talented, but I can tell you there are some very clear misses that are clear before, during, and after. And I miss sometimes, but it's relatively rare. A player I think is good gets drafted highly in the NFL, and then doesn't go off, if you know what I mean. That happens, but the opposite doesn't. So yeah, I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm getting tired, I guess. But like, I'm thinking of Andy Isabella. Like, I thought he was good, so did the NFL, and he failed. It's relatively rare that I say a player is very good, gets low drafted, and then never shows any sign of it. Tyler Johnson, every time he gets on a field, literally listen to the commentary. It's like, this player was, I don't know, where's this guy from? He's doing better than he should. Like, he may never turn into fantasy relevance, but when he gets on the field, he gets targets, he scores a touchdown, he's a benefit to the team. They did underdraft him, even if it never becomes fantasy relevant. And Michael Campanaro, I'll stick up for that one too. I'll also stick up for Malcolm Mitchell and the New England Patriots. Like, it may never turn into fantasy relevance, but I'm definitely capturing their ability to put up yards and touchdowns a little bit better, sometimes in draft capital. But yeah, I definitely adjust for the likelihood of getting opportunity because it is king. Like, Cam Meredith, Tyrell Williams, Tyrell Williams are clearly better than a lot of players who have more permanent jobs right now. They just clearly were, despite Cameron Meredith's injury. It also just doesn't matter because I play fantasy. So yeah, It's fine. Yeah, Dwayne. There were players drafted in this draft with second and third round capital that every player I just mentioned who didn't get it could still beat them out for the job if the NFL didn't prefer its own farts. They do prefer their own draft capital. They like the smell of their own farts. Am I willing to admit it doesn't matter? Yes. Yeah, definitely. But we're definitely capturing something with production that the NFL sometimes gets wrong. So there's a whole mass of stuff going into that. You're definitely on the right. Again, I would encourage the thought process, Jesse. You're on the right track. What the NFL thinks matters more than anything. And also, they're better at talent evaluation. So I don't even know what that is. Joannis, has there been a model that performs better than it? Yes. Yeah, every model should perform better than draft capital.
Well, because you include it.
Because we take draft capital and add stuff that they may be overlooking on, and so on and so forth. And yeah, mine outperform draft capital. Otherwise, there would be no point in it because we add draft capital to it. My pre-draft model performs about as well as draft capital. Interesting enough, combine them together, they kick the shit out of one thing or the other. That's it. Production. If you put that's the one thing I'd say, and I'm trying to say to Jesse as well, and why you should stick with the thought. If you do a ton of fucking work and you build a ton of fucking good shit and you get a lot of experience at it, you do as well as draft capital or slightly better. There's no reason to just take that. You can add draft capital, do it, and beat it, like I was just saying. Or you could just look at draft capital and it does about as well. So it's right, but also you can improve it slightly. That's what I'm saying. Production hits about as well as draft capital, which tells you it is capturing something. But since we're just fantasy players, there's no point in ignoring the fact that draft capital matters. I'm not going to quote numbers to you on my models. Just if you want to, I will. But I find most people just want a simple answer. Yeah, production does as well as draft capital. Combine them together, that you've got it made. That's the best we can do. Does that matter for an NFL team? Fuck no. Is it talent evaluation? Hell no. I think I missed one here. NFL draft capital is film grade in some respects, but NFL teams have analytics teams too. Yeah, much better analysts as well. Let's be clear. We're seeking some, and this was where we go back to. We're seeking something that they're not with every draft pick. They're seeking special teams players. They're seeking players that can add to an NFL roster, even as a wide receiver that we don't care about. Like, that's the thing. This goes back to why we sometimes overlook vacated targets. It's like, guys, you're paying attention to such a small smidgen of targets because they're the ones that matter. Whereas the NFL team is going to throw it like 30 times more than we even care about because it goes to wide receiver or running back or tight end X that we literally don't care about. And so it feels like targets are vacating. But if you look at the whole pool, they're not. And that's also why target dominance works. It's because to get 20% of a team's target is relatively easy if you've got the talent, because you've got like 7-8 other players who literally don't even register on the team normally who are getting targets. They can easily lose their targets or not get targeted as often if a player is talented enough that they just suck up the value or create that volume, or however you want to say it. Like, that's why Landry and OBJ can exist on the same roster, and T. Higgins and Chase can exist on the same roster. There's more than enough targets if the players have the talent to do it. Otherwise, there would be a vacated target or a ceiling to opportunity for the wide receiver too, and it just doesn't.
Well,
I don't know how I got onto that.
It was draft capital. The other part, though,
that was
about draft capital too is we assume that every team is, drafting optimally, and some teams have Dave Gettleman. Well, not anymore, but they did. The Giants had Gettleman. Like, there are GMs who are not good at this, and they are.
There's also not. The analytics teams aren't making the decision. Neither is a scouting team who could probably also beat a GM, to be honest.
And they're not necessarily, like, not every team is analyzing and looking for the same things. And so you have this kind of wide disparity. So that, like, again, draft capital is great, but there is a caveat where it's not the Bible. It's not 100% accurate. It's not.
It's a point I've heard about draft capital from smarter people than me a lot, and it's a good one, is that the NFL is very good at this. A team can just make a mistake.
Right.
Like, I liked Andy Isabella. The Arizona Cardinals did too. We were both wrong. But his draft capital signal was so strong because as a draft pick is so strong because as an NFL, they're great with all those analysts and everything else. But just one GM and one moment with one second round pick makes it look much stronger than it would have. If he didn't draft him, he probably would have fell to the fourth round. We would have been a lot more accurate on it.
It's the small sample size.
One player makes one person makes one decision. And so draft capital is really strong. And sometimes there is missteps because it really does come down to an individual at some point. And we are all imperfect. And every GMM definitely knows more about talent evaluation and everything else than me. All of those things can be true, if you know what I mean. We're just trying to weed through it to do slightly better. For fantasy, which literally doesn't matter. Dude from Vikings Quest. Should I trade the 102 for the 24 first for CD Lamb? Yes, I would do that. The fourth,
that's right on the
20th. Yeah, that pick's far enough away. I'm pretty comfortable with it. Like, CD Lamb's probably going to be just as relevant in 2024, so I don't think you're losing much in there. And you've got 2 years to make it back, so that's cool. Yeah, there isn't a player that is easy to say he's going to be a top 24 player for the next 3 years in this class outside of maybe Burks. And Burks could fail too. So that's securing risk, and you've got all the value in youth. It's fine. If I don't have any more running backs in a rebuild, from what you're saying, Chubb will have more. I think Chubb will have more value in season. Explore trades, but I think you'll have more value in season, yes. You don't have to do either or. You can explore trades and wait till the season if you don't get a good one. That's
I don't think I would not take the 105.
I wouldn't just
a 24 first. No, I would wait and see if you could get something better.
Yeah. If it doesn't hit your value line, you should feel very comfortable waiting for the season. If it does, make the trade. I have James Robinson and ETN. Keep both? Yes, keep both. Trade Robinson. I would keep both.
Yeah, and if you're going to trade ETN, don't do it yet. Wait.
That's why I would keep both.
Yeah.
I would trade ETN because he's very rightly should skyrocket, and you have the wild card. You could trade him for the full value, and then if it doesn't work out, you have why it doesn't. And I think I like James Robinson a lot. Wando Robinson, future depends on his height, weight, but I'm extremely interested. I don't think it depends on his height and weight. Outside of the NFL will value that a lot. So you're right. In a way, I think didn't you tell me he's a low BMI guy though?
Maybe. So they've got him listed at 5'11", 185, but he feels smaller than that. He was a kind of a hybrid running back his first couple of years at I think it was Nebraska, and then ended up transferring to Kentucky and
went off as a wide receiver.
Yeah, was really good as a wide receiver. Good going down the field. Obviously, he's real good transitioning post catch because that's kind of what running backs do. But I think to me, he doesn't always utilize his quickness.
Okay.
Especially off the line of scrimmage. So he's still kind of learning the wide receiver position, which is a tough thing to go into the NFL and be developing.
I would say as at a lower conference, as a hybrid, his yards per team pass attempt, his market share as a wide receiver, even though he's playing this hybrid role, matches up to everyone else in this class. Now, where you discount that for the conference, fine, but then maybe give it a little plus because he was actually playing running back,
Right.
So I think his production is really interesting. I'm not BMI Twitter, I get it, but I care more about that for the NFL. We'll probably like to see it, and that means draft capital. Problem with Singletary, I couldn't even sell him for. Yeah. He's one of those running backs where if you can't get anything for him, you just keep him. Not sure what his value will be there. People want to spend that. Yeah. As much as we're inclined to sell running backs, when we think they have a value spike, I see him as more of a buy hold. Yeah, that's kind of where I end up. Like, I'll buy a Singletary not for a second or less, and that's normally where their value ends up being. So you just kind of get your pick, to be honest. No matter how you slice it, injury or not, the hit rate for running backs starter season isn't good next season for a third-year second rounder like Akers. Probably not. Yeah. I don't know if that's the only category to put him in. That's the thing with hit rates. You can slice it 7 different ways and find a good or a bad hit rate. Do you really think that describes what Cam Akers is? The team literally put him back on salaries so that they could keep him and probably keep him happy. He's got back on the team. They're using him in the literal players. I think this team is higher than that description does him service for. So I think he's going to be at least a top 24 running back, let's see. And people love those, Stephanie. I think the problem is he's going to be more a committee. That was my take on him before he was injured this year than most people are willing to admit or think about. But his value is right. There's few players that young, that good with even his share of the offense. You getting tired, Zach? TaylorMade, Wando Robinson is starting to become one of my favorite players. Yeah, it's one of those profiles where I get that I'm probably getting over my skis, but it's actually kind of exciting. Like that guy could do something in the NFL. He's had a wild ride. He's performed well everywhere he's gone in these weird roles. Yeah, it's like you kind of root for him just reading the numbers, to be honest. You're like, come on, you can do it the next year. And you did. Yay!
But my fear is that he gets pegged into a Rondell Moore, like that gadgety, like we don't know what you are, so we're gonna just do this because a lot of how he got open in college and even at Kentucky where he had 94 catches and over 1,000 yards and over 1,100 yards. They used him in motion a ton, little gadgety like bubble screen, and like not that he can't go down the field and not that he can't do that, but they did utilize him a lot in maybe a little more innovative, creative ways. Makes me nervous. I like him, but it makes me nervous.
I'm really rooting for him. I'm hoping the NFL takes a shot.
I'm rooting for all these guys. If every single player in the draft succeeds, then it's great for fantasy. It's better.
Great for us, yeah, for sure. So. Is Robert Woods worthless now? OBJ is killing it again. Robert Woods was worthless a while ago. You'll find someone that will value because Robert Woods is good. He's still not dead. His value is probably severely muted. Miss the best sell window. Even I would probably trade him for a second, I guess, if I'm in draft and there's no one else I like there. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, OBJ was a very clear buy for the last few weeks because the reasons I've actually had him as a buy for years, so I've missed on this a lot. So I'm going to Zach, what do you think? I've been wrong too often.
Oh, I mean, again, OBJ killing it is just scoring touchdowns. Like he's not
touchdowns.
like he hasn't done much. He just scored touchdowns and
his target
whatever
increased.
I mean, he's been fine, Peter. He's okay, but he's not like but if you're talking about Robert Woods and OBJ, yeah, probably Robert Woods is not. I mean, he's kind of toast, at least in LA, and yeah.
He's probably worthless, which means I would be interested in trading for him or adding him to a trade rather than anything else, because I really don't think players stop.
Do you want to get in the DFPN league so I can trade you Robert Woods?
That's the thing. I'm not interested in trading him from anyone who thinks he has value. If he's worthless, I'm interested. But he's probably worthless to most players. Yeah. Brandon Cooks and T. Lawrence for Dak.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know what that is. Put you in timeout too. That's the thing I can do. The Beast 2774 10-team Superflex PPR. Jerry Jeudy for a first.
A 23 first. I take the 23 first.
Oh, okay, nice.
I would. I want the boat. It could be a boat in that box. I'll take it. I know what Jerry
you want
Jeudy
the mystery
is.
Box at that point.
Yeah, I know what Jerry Jeudy is, and I know that I have potential to go up above Jerry Jeudy. I'll take the first. I know it's counter to but I'll take the first, especially 23. I think I can get more for 23 first next year than Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. Tiebreaker for me is honestly, I hate to keep coming back to the same things, but it's all the same thing. Does my team suck? And I have plenty of sucky teams. I'll take the first. You roll up the security and the value. Outside of that, I think there's a year where Jerry Jeudy could remind people he's actually good, not just mediocre. And I think even a mediocre performance would make him worth more than a first. So I will take that gamble. But if there's any risk in it at all, like I need the value because my team absolutely sucks, I gotta just take the first. Yeah, it's fine. He should be worth more than the first. I have 7 first-round picks in next 2 years. Where is everyone without picks? There must be a whole skew. Somewhere there's someone doing a live stream with 30 people.
That's why he's not here. He's like, I traded all my picks.
No picks. Him and 30 people are off talking in the other corner. Like, what do? I got no picks because everyone here has so many picks. My QB is Herbert. Running backs are Dylan, Javonte, Rojo. Wrong order, but good. My wide receivers are Jamar, Higgins, Deontay, Devontae Smith, Renfro, Goddard, Everett, Azuma. So you need nothing.
Running back.
Anything you would do. Yeah, running back, I guess. Trade Dylan and Rojo for whatever you have to get JT. And maybe tight end. You can add something to Goddard to go get your favorite top tier tight end. That's about it. I'm fine with Goddard, but yeah, you could.
That's what I was going to say. Like I think Goddard's probably that next. So you have your top 5. You have some kind of amalgamation of Pitts, Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. Goddard's probably that next guy.
Yeah, I think Goddard's gonna break into it next year as well, which is why I'm fine having Goddard. But I mean, if you're asking me, yeah, go get Pitts. I guess
to me,
Andrews.
it's put somebody with or a pick with Dylan and try to get. Well, we talked about Antonio Gibson, but somebody with pass catching upside that I think will be better than that. Just upgrade your running back a little bit. I think that's where
I think that's a better move. I like to think about tight ends, I guess. Non-super flex. Yeah, you're fine. Joe Herbert.
No, I was just going to say, do you think you could get Taylor if you put Higgins in something? Maybe Higgins and Dylan and get Taylor. Would you do that? Yeah.
Joe Herbert, there are far too many people with YouTube channels who think they can evaluate how college players translate to the NFL. I appreciate those who actually can. I need more. I get what you're saying. I'm taking the compliment, but I want all of you on YouTube, man. Like, we don't make any money. I really enjoyed talking to you all about this. I'd love to hear what you have to say if you were to make a video, or anyone else for that matter. I get there's too many people doing it, but I mean, I don't have those aspirations, I guess. I do. Everyone does. But I honestly just like playing this game with you all. So I'm fine with as many YouTube channels as I can. But I do get what I do understand that wasn't what you were saying. I just thought I'd take the opportunity to say it. Like, start writing. I read it. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Joshua Bigby. I'm tired of people saying putting my eval versus the NFL teams. It's not. It's mine versus a single NFL. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it, actually. We don't know what the NFL's eval is. We know what the single team. Yeah, I think, especially in context, it's fair to say that. Again, that's going back the other way towards what Jesse was saying. It's also probability. The lower drafted you are, the less probable you are to get opportunity, especially earlier. So there is a probability issue there. But yeah, I think it's fair to think of it as versus one NFL's in the moment decision as well. You know, someone bangs a table and they end up with a weird. I'm done relying on draft capital. Don't rely on anything. Everything's fake. Just throw darts. But I get what you mean. Height. Yeah. Who has the most one-hand catches? That's one of my favorites, you know. Jesse, for PPR, wide receiver Diggs finished 49, 30, 19, 10 as a year, and 24 with Minnesota. He finished 3-7 with Buffalo. I think that's a prime example of landing spot beating talent. Sure, except for the fact that, you know, he went to Minnesota, which is where we saw that he was good, and he worked himself to a place where Buffalo would trade for him. So he was, you know, but yeah.
I mean,
this is don't draft running backs on bad teams, except when you should, you know, because a player can end in the top 5 on a bad team. Broadly, you're right. Like being on the most productive offense in the NFL makes sense. And I actually do have a tiering based on, sorry, my chair's falling. Are you Kansas City or Denver? There's a difference, right? But if you find players tilting too hard into it, you can find value. James Robinson had a top 12 season for literally, you don't want anyone on that team except James Robinson. And this year it didn't work out because normally it doesn't. So yes, as a rule, fine, but don't make it a law, you know?
Another way of saying that is every year that Diggs played 15 games, he was a top 24.
Yeah.
Like he's good. Like you can't separate the fact that he's good. Is it a better offense? Did he get more, more touchdowns or whatever? Then yeah. But
having said that, you know, Justin Jefferson is doing just fine in the offense that he left, as is Adam Thielen. You know, there's a margin of error around it. Let me say it in that nerd-ass way. Thielen and Cousins, yep. Love bantering with you dudes. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for all you do, my man. It's weird to be thanked. Sorry, I don't know how to respond to it, but I do really enjoy talking with you all about this, especially you as well, Jesse. So thanks for doing that, man. This is more fun than I would regularly be having on a Wednesday night, you know. Richard Davis, what do you think about Jalen Hurts' future holds? We talked about that a little earlier. I think that he's got the points upside. I think he should have. Look, I think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. I actually think he is. I don't know at what point the drumbeat of no, he's not means that the team alters course. So there's a cliff potential. But I genuinely think this guy's got the talent. It's not just his legs. He's not Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Drew Brees for sure as a passer. But he's Lamar Jackson. You know, I really think he could be successful and lead this team well as a quarterback. But I don't care. I'm not an NFL. I don't have to worry about it. I just need to know. As for fantasy, there is risk there. Yeah. So I think he's got at least another great fantasy season in him next year, and then there's risk.
And I think that the second part of that is amusing to me. Would you trade for him on a young team as a QB3 behind Dak and Lance? I think he's probably your QB2 if you trade for him. And then you hope Lance becomes what Hurts is, but with a more stable because he was a first-round pick and because he's younger and whatever. But yeah, like I would see what I could get him for.
I would probably trade Lance for him and try and work out a deal with that because I think Hurts has got it. I think he does it next year. Lance could well be, like Zach says, doing it and for a longer period of time. I think that's less certain. I'm all about certainty. And also, I just like being in on players people kind of disproportionately don't like for reasons I don't understand because I don't team, I guess. Raise Play ZU. And I'm sorry I screwed that up, but I really like your Fortnite avatar. So yeah, just going to say that. My friend just traded Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Dalvin Cook, and a first-round pick in 2023 for Jonathan Taylor and Terry McLaurin.
I would rather have the side your friend traded. Are we winking? Is this like my friend?
I don't know. I'm not going to guess. I'd probably rather have Cook, Waddle, and Ayuk, and is a great chaser than Jonathan Taylor and Terry McLaurin by himself. But JT is a different kind of cat, dynasty value-wise, so I get it. But I would probably rather Dalvin Cook's side. I'm not scared that he's old.
Dalvin Cook is going to be for the next couple of years probably in the ballpark of Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is obviously the clear-cut one, but Dalvin Cook is capable of putting up fantasy points in that neighborhood. Jalen Waddle's a top 12 wide receiver.
If this was just Cook and Waddle for Taylor and McLaurin, I'd say no. But the Brandon Ayuk chaser is a big thing for me, and added to a first,
and the 23 first. Yeah,
that's a big win. Peter, have you ever looked at how much combine stuff size correlates to draft capital? Yeah, actually, it correlates pretty to draft capital. It has some correlation. I don't have the number off the top of my head. The NFL cares, so we have to care. It's like what I was saying about Wan'Dale Robinson in this class. They're going to care about his BMI, his height, his weight, and his speed, and therefore we have to care. But I think that's also factored into draft capital.
Again, John Ross goes, brrr, that's the NFL likes those fast guys.
He's playing with them like model trains so fast. But again, you can squint at it still because it is one team. It's freaking the Bengals going, John Ross fast. Yeah. And that's all you need. And that's not the NFL saying it. It's the Bengals saying it. So,
it's the old, it only takes one. And that's the danger of it.
I have looked at it and that's what I found, but I actually don't have the result posted anywhere. So it'd be worth looking and actually getting an actual result for how it correlates. If you're trying to predict draft capital, I would say the combine matters. I also got off of the 2022 second round pick, the 202 actually, for Rashad Penny. I want Penny over a second, but that's a very high second. So if you don't, it's fine. In a 10-team league, it's probably still take Penny.
So I'd probably take the second just in case I hit on somebody there. I'm concerned Penny doesn't end up back in Seattle. And if he doesn't end up back in Seattle, he's probably a backup.
Again, the way I protect myself from this is I'm probably not buying running backs that are worth a second right now. I'm buying running backs that are worth a third, or I'm buying Gibson, ETN, maybe
absolutely
Acres. But yeah, Penny's an interesting conversation. I'm just protecting myself from it that way. But yeah, probably a bigger conversation than I have time for right now. Richard Davis, rate the trade. Give Clark, yes. Pollard, give him away. Jacobs, fine, give him away. Bateman, wait a minute. 209, got Singletary, Swift, and the 205. So it's Jacobs and Bateman for Swift and the 205. Basically.
On a scale of 7 to 23, I give that about an 18. I like it. I'd take the Swift side.
I want Bateman. But yeah, it's the Swift side. It sucks. Rate the trade. Give Minshew. Like Chark and Minshew are still rostered. That's the most interesting part for them. ETN, Ayuk, and a third and a second for Fournette and Debo. Ooh, Debo's interesting.
It's
ETN
Debo.
and Ayuk. I would take ETN and Ayuk. That's not me. I would rather have Debo, but ETN's easily going to explode. For me, I think into a similar value tier as Debo. He's a running back who plays wide receiver. And Ayuk is a productive wide receiver, and both of them are doing it on the same team, as they should, because they can. The draft capital kind of even. No, you get a second round pick with it too. So yeah, I don't know why Minshew's in the trade, but I'd probably take Etienne and Ayuk. But I do. Debo's my favorite player in the trade, just so I can stump up.
I mean, you got something right there. I appreciate it.
Fair. But I don't. Why?
My followers, Peter. Come on.
How'd you like Twitter? YouTube doesn't even have followers. It's not even the right vocabulary. You know what I mean? Richard Davis, write the trade. Fournette and the 309 for Henderson, Dower Henderson, and
take the
first. The first. I'd take the first.
Yeah.
All of these are 10-team superflex.
Yeah.
Didn't know. It doesn't change it for me. No. Also, really loving to adjust my strategy into hero running back. I think I know what that means. It's one of the new ways of saying like
draft a good
modified
first,
zero,
and then
modified zero RB or whatever.
Yeah.
With one top end guy and a bunch of flyers like Akers, Henderson, Fournette. That's high priced flyers, but still, won 2 leagues like that. With that being said, who would you think are good RBs to target? Right now, I'm buying running backs that are worth a third, like I just said. Or I'm buying Antonio Gibson, Travis Etienne, or maybe Cam Akers if his value is still in that range. Because I think it's going to go up. As a hero running back, yeah, it can definitely work. I would, just put it in your back of your head somewhere. Strategies work not 100% of the time. It's okay to adjust based on the draft and also based on the year.
Yeah.
And don't get stuck into so stuck into one that you would never even try another for a particular draft or a particular year. But yeah, hero running back can definitely work, as you have found out.
Well, and it also depends on who the heroes are. Like if you, if you're
that's the problem with the strategy. Yeah,
if you're 5 running backs, if you're 5 running backs deep, and you're like, I'm going hero RB, so I'm going to take, whoever the 6th running back is off the board. He may not be enough of a hero to catapult you to victory.
Not the hero you deserve.
Yeah, but at least you got James Conner.
I got offered.
I would take Hurts.
The offer I got: Hurts, Boston Scott, and a second for James Winston. Yeah, take Hurts. Take Hurts. Yeah. Basically a first. I would. Yeah. I'm heading into next year with Russ Wilson and Trevor Lawrence as my only viable quarterbacks. Yeah. Any recommendations for adding another quarterback? Yeah. Jalen Hurts seems to be a popular one. Mac Jones and Tua are the only guys I've got in my. I'm really interested. I think their value could rise if they outperform expectation next year. Like, I'd be really interested in them. And I think they could, not just they would, all players would. Whereas if they did, I think those two might outperform expectation and therefore their value will rise as well.
That would be an interesting place to go see if you could get Deshaun Watson for not a lot. Because if he ends up coming back and playing, he's a top 5 quarterback. If he doesn't, you're not out a ton. But
I think he's coming back, by the way. Based on the latest stuff, I think he's coming back.
I think he's coming back because he's a good player, and the NFL doesn't care what good players do. They're just like, come back, make us money.
I felt like the reason they've kept him off the field is because they just didn't want to deal with it, so he wouldn't. Now I'm starting to think it's because they want it to quieten down.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think the charges are going to be serious enough in terms of the actual, level of charges he gets. But it's all very fluid. Like with Ridley, I like to consider him retired. But with more, I think it's looking like Watson comes back.
A lot of what I've been reading is the charges will end up being misdemeanor. Anything that they can actually stick to him, which. Which means the NFL kind of has an let's not. I don't want to get into how frustrating that is, but if you're looking at it from a fantasy football perspective, he is a top 6 quarterback that you can get as a almost QB 20. He's out. Yeah, he's almost outside of the top 24. So,
and I think based on the latest stuff that's coming out, there's less risk he never plays again. Especially if you consider, like, I started to think. Maybe they were just hoping the noise went away a little bit. They weren't just preemptively banning him. They were just trying to quieten it down because they want him to play.
He has been really where there's smoke, there's fire linked to Brian
Oh.
Flores. If Flores goes somewhere, because Miami tried to get him, and it sounded like it was Flores trying to get him, which was part of the reason why they parted ways with Flores. But if Flores ends up somewhere, he could end up in New York with the Giants. There's been a lot of talk about Watson headed with him, so just kind of something to keep in mind. That's
He just reminded me of Will Fuller as well. Another really cheap guy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nick Martinez. Nice to see you guys. You too, Nick.
Hello,
Thanks.
Nick.
Spock. Finally. This is the only reason we're stucking around. Stucking? Yeah, stucking around. We haven't heard from the 109 and the 2 for Mac Jones. Yeah, Mac Jones for a first and a second.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, and especially in this class, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. Jacob Smith, I got off the 105 for Minshew. Thoughts? 105.
Yeah.
What is this Minshew drama? I like Minshew. I like everyone else. I think he's fun as hell. But he's a backup quarterback.
Yeah, people are thinking he's going to end up in like Pittsburgh or someplace that doesn't have a quarterback. Maybe Cleveland. I've taken a lot of shots at Baker Mayfield this week. It's been fun.
Kyler Murray and Knox for Stafford and Pitts side, I think. Superflex, yeah, Pitts side.
Oh no TE premium, no, Murray. I'm sorry, no.
Okay. If you were to rank the last 2 years of wide receiver prospects pre-draft with this year's class, where would Burks, Garrett, Wilson rank? Wilson, London, Bell wouldn't get into the top. Like we probably have to get through quite a few names. They're second-tier prospects, and there were first-tier prospects in last year's class. I tell you what, do you have an answer, Zach?
I do. It would go Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Rondell Moore, Jamar Chase, Corey Davis, DJ Moore, Treylon Burks, Devontae Smith, James Washington, Cortland Sutton, N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, I think I would have Burks like fourth out of the last two classes, probably. And then the next guy on that list that I've got ranked is Wilson, and he would come in.
I've got him somewhere between
eighth,
sixth. I've got him somewhere between 6th and 8th. Burks.
Yeah.
So
6th and 8th.
Yeah, but that's not the last. That's not the last 2 years because I've got Corey Davis and DJ Moore in there. So 6.
I probably have more Chase. See, Burks, Moore, and Smith would be an interesting conversation. So I'll probably stick him in there at 4. And then Wilson, the next guy I've ranked, comes out at 9th, and then we're way down the list.
But that was strictly from my pre-draft rankings for all of them. So not knowing what I know now, re-ranking them. Like I have a list. It's in my tab called For Peter. Where I did that because you did that a couple of years ago or last year where you were like, yeah, this is my historical rankings for these players, and I was like, wow, I'm going to see what I did and how I hit, and so
it's just where I put all my rookie ranks. I rank them pre-draft and the post-draft, and I make notes for myself, and other people like to fact check me, like, no, you didn't like Elijah Mitchell. I was like, damn it. You're right. Stuff like that. I thought it was okay, to be fair. But yeah, honestly, the second-tier prospects here would hit pretty well in the second-tier prospects from the last class, which was kind of Taylor Wallace ended up there. Rondell Robinson, Sky Moore would fit in there with Taylor Wallace pretty well. Actually, pre-draft, I like Taylor a lot more. I'm probably adjusting there. Anyway, sorry about that. Just hit accept on the Hurts trade. Yeah, I kind of agree. Is the Dynasty community too far over its skin on Konami Q? I've heard that. The idea we've already adjusted for it now. It's time to calm down. Feels like some don't care how well one plays in the pocket if you can run. I think we're about right. I do think there's value in noticing that passing quarterbacks still matter. Like you can still find Tom Brady, but there's still value in passing quarterbacks entering the top 5 and top 12. So it's not that the Konami code is overrated; it's that we're so much content is devoted to it that some of the passing quarterbacks can get overlooked. Honestly, Matt Ryan, aging veteran QBs who can have fantasy relevant seasons, is a passing quarterback. I think there's an extra dismissal of him because he had a down year and he doesn't rush. Zach's got nothing. You got nothing. Joannis, how do you deal with a loud neighbor who plays booming music? I live in the country.
I say I live in Maine, but the answer is you put on your best party dress, you grab the bottle of wine in a red Solo cup, and you go knock on their door, and then when they open it, you don't even say anything. You just want it like you're at a rave. That's it. You just and they'll either be so shocked that they turn it off and like kick you out, call the cops, or you're at a party, so whatever.
Well, soundproof headphones, I guess.
Yeah, noise canceling. No,
I'm
it
not
is
the
like,
confrontational sort.
Maine is the answer.
Yeah, honestly, it's just move to Maine, Joannis. I guess spot 498 ETN and Waddle for Justin Jefferson.
I'd rather have Jefferson.
Yeah, which there's a lot of value in that other side if you're looking to make more moves, but I would take Jefferson. Appreciate it, Spot. Almost pulled a trade giving Josh Allen for CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Elijah Moore. That would have been nice.
Yeah, Superflex. So you gotta have Allen. You got to.
Mans wanted more. Oh, you were trying to get Josh Allen. Wow, jeez. Dynasty League PPR non-Superflex. Did I miss your question? I can't see it from the. So if you asked, I don't see the question.
No, you hit enter too soon. There's another one. Three questions down. It's the same.
Oh, okay. Am I crazy for considering to trade Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill for Justin Jefferson? And DJ Moore, and T. Higgins, and Deshaun Watson? No, you're not crazy. If it was just Justin Jefferson, I was pulling a maybe face, so no. And Jefferson, Moore, Higgins, and Watson for me. Please.
Yeah.
Also curious as to what I need to improve on. Quarterback is Josh Allen. Watson at running back.
No, Josh Allen and Watson. Running back is Dobbins.
I was going to say, what running back is?
Javonte Williams, David Montgomery, Penny Rojo, Dearness Johnson, Chase Edmonds.
Not much. It's the thing. I'm not predicting who's going to outperform anyone else at this point in the season. I'm more concerned with making sure I got good players, sure, but also making sure my value is secure in Dynasty. Because what if, everyone gets injured on your team? They're all older and there's a lot of running back studs on this team. Suddenly you're losing ground. And so I start thinking about picks and young wide receivers for that reason. But it's not like you have to do that. But I'm trying to balance my value out into my potential for winning next season. So some level of that. Jacob Smith, over the past 6 years, I've traded 1 to 10. I've traded for 1 to 10 in this year's draft. What should I do with those picks?
So we really need J Mike for that. That's a J Mike move where he had the entire draft.
This is terrible draft to have done it in. Honestly, can you move it all to 2023? If not, like what I said before, my dismissal or my down on this class isn't because there aren't going to be good players here. It's because they're harder to pinpoint. But if you're literally going to draft all of them, you're good. Just pick them, I guess.
Yeah.
Different.
I like that, the idea though of getting on the clock and just offering out every single one of them for a 23 first and see, so you get on the clock, get 101 and be like, send it out to everybody. 101 for your 23 first and see if they'll take, and then 102. Just keep going and see how many of the 23 picks you can get.
Yeah, baby. Also, wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, and I have some work to do at wide receiver. Robbie, Juju's cool. Gout. Yeah, I guess you go looking for Chase or Justin Jefferson. That's your clearest need. Not clearest need. Improvement.
Would you pair David Montgomery and Lamb I guess maybe Mike Evans, but Lamb's probably the one you're going to get there with to go get Jefferson? So Lamb and Montgomery for Justin Jefferson? Yeah. So that I think that's probably something to think about.
in high stakes trading now. What is this?
Always. You just skipped over the fact that Johannes laughed at my suggestion too. Yeah.
I did. I feel, jealous, frankly. What would be our next move in a rebuild trade-wise if you had this team? Kyler Murray, Nick Chubb, Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Darren Waller, and Robert Tonyan for some reason for this year, plus seconds and thirds. Nice. I don't know, man. You done. There's not necessarily definitely next move I'm looking at. It's what trades can I scatter around? Yeah, you're trying to win while securing that value you've already accrued. So I guess right now that would be wait. Because you've already got Ayuk. That's a good trade target right there. I'd probably I'd probably try and trade Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know how much you get for him.
I'm looking for 2022 picks since I've already secured my future picks. And I want to take some shots. Or I'm looking for discounted vets. Pull up again.
How much do you think you'd have to put with Waller to get a younger tight end? So either a Kittle, Andrews, or Pitts? Because that might be something I would do. I mean, just for
shouldn't
kicks.
Have to. Waller should be similar value to Andrews.
So yeah, so that might be something that I would do is kind of kick that can down the road age-wise. 2 firsts this year. 223, 324. Yeah. And again, like if you're rebuild, you said what's your next move in a rebuild? If you're in a rebuild, you've got way too many guys who are going to produce to be in a rebuild.
I know we said to keep Nick Chubb unless you get a good trade for him, but Deontay is still there, man. I know you traded for him because he's younger, but like that's a guy I would move if I'm just outright rebuilding.
That doesn't look like a rebuild team. That looks to me like either a contender
or
it's either a contender or it's in the middle. And if it's in the middle, you want to get
trade Deontay, trade Waller, more draft picks, I guess, or even younger wide receivers, and Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore.
Yep.
Feel like I'm missing a guy. Bateman, he's well out of that value conversation right now, but still. You skipped mine.
No, we went back. It's all good. Jacob, we went back.
Okay.
Yeah. We went back. We said trade.
There are 33 players, by the way. Can't name all my other bums. Yeah. We don't need to know. 10-team Superflex Watson for 106. Deshaun Watson and Jordan Love. And that seems higher than I'd expect to pay for Watson right now.
Yeah.
So, it is a Superflex, though. The 106 isn't going to probably net you a quarterback, but that's too high for Watson.
No, but the 106 is going to be right in that range of Hall, Spiller, and Burns.
Whoever the fuck.
Somebody decent. So,
yeah. Liv, you guys' advice has helped me from not doing stupid trades. Well, I'm sorry, because stupid trades are fun, so I'm sorry to steal some of your fun, to be honest with you. I have plenty of them. OBJ, we haven't mentioned him as a trade target, but I guess he kind of is. I tried giving up Mike Evans for David Montgomery and a first for Jefferson. Yeah, I'd do that. No one's interested in Montgomery right now. He's probably the one I wanted to name.
Yeah.
I would also trade Montgomery away for anything. Well, not anything, but you know what I mean. If a train left Chicago traveling 80 miles per hour and a train in New York left traveling 90 miles per hour, would Urban Meyer be on either of them? He would be in the middle, tied to the tracks by anyone who's around.
I was like,
this is convenient.
I was going to ask if either of the trains have a bar car that serves, because he might be in the bar car. I could see that.
That's fair. All right, I think we're winding down to the end of the questions, and I think I'm winding down. Don't know about you, Zach.
I've been winding down for about 45 minutes. Yeah.
We're going to call it a night, guys, but again, we're going to keep it rolling through the off season. Don't know why I'm trying to disappear out of frame here, but I am. That's how we're going to we're going to leave today by elevating through the ceiling. Now, every Wednesday, 9:30, we're going to be streaming to talk, chat, answer, or ask Ricky questions, I guess, or anything else you want to talk about with Spanish football. Really appreciate so many of you showing up and being willing to talk today. It really does make my week. Learn how to say words, Pete. This might go better.
It's all right. English is his second language. It's fine.
That's fair. I normally speak British English. I'm trying to learn American English. Follow Zach at TacitAssassin13 on Twitter. Check him out in Dynasty Dummies. And,
tomorrow we're dropping a show, Peter.
I know. I'm really excited about that one, actually.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about it before we get out?
Oh, no. That was it. We're talking the first 6 rookie running backs tomorrow with J. Mike and Matt Foreman. So
awesome.
Dynasty Dummies.
I generally can't wait to hear it, especially now I've gotten some rookie work done, so you can't pollute my mind quite as much,
I can try.
All right, so let's get out of here, I guess. Dynasty Outhouse insists we go, hey, look behind
over there.
You. That's our thing, apparently.